Chapter 228. Leaving the riverside, Cheng Lingren's eyes met with Jiang Xiu's. Her eyes that were as gentle as spring water revealed a smile. She couldn't help but laugh and scold, I guess Long Yingqing will really hate you for a lifetime. Jiang Xiu said, she deserves it. This is called evil people will be punished by evil people. Cheng Lingren said, yes, you are a big evil person. Everything you say is reasonable. Everyone says that the East Continent is good at martial arts. You have learned martial arts, but don't be careless. Long Yingqing is not to be trifled with. Jiang Xiu said, I guess, after today's lesson, I'm afraid she won't have the guts to find trouble with me for a while. Thinking of Long Yingqing's miserable appearance, Cheng Lingran couldn't help but burst out laughing. But she felt that it was not good to add insult to injury, so she quickly covered her mouth. However, her smiling crescent-shaped eyes deeply betrayed her. The Cheng Lingran in front of him was like a blooming flower, silently blooming and spreading her charm. You're so bad. I won't talk to you anymore. I have to go to class. Cheng Lingren's steps were very small. Her elegance and nobility were inadvertently revealed. From the smile on her face, it could be seen that she was unprecedentedly happy with Jiang Xiu. Long Yingqing felt that she couldn't wash herself clean no matter what. Moreover, she was still a girl, so she couldn't take off all her clothes. In any case, she felt that her entire body was smelly, and from time to time, she wanted to vomit. Seeing that she was about to go ashore, Long Tingwei reached out to pull her, but Long Yingqing angrily said, you don't have to pretend to be kind. Her whole body was wet and she was limping. She smelled bad as she walked towards the school gate. Along the way, she met a lot of people who were pointing at her. She could no longer hear what they were saying. She didn't need to listen to them to know that they were all saying bad things. The image of the school bell was destroyed. Destroyed in a day. To think that she, Long Yingqing, was so noble and arrogant, like a princess, no, like a queen, to actually suffer such humiliation, to actually be pinned on her head, vomit. She couldn't help but rush to the side of the road and vomit, even vomiting bile. Jiang, I will never let you go. Blurg. After vomiting for a while, she really couldn't vomit anything out. She felt that her entire stomach was empty. She felt extremely uncomfortable. The more she thought about it, the more aggrieved she felt. She wanted to cry again. She asked someone to drive her home. The first thing she did was to rush into her bathroom, take off her clothes, and throw them out of the window. The servants also pinched their noses and threw her clothes away. She hid in the bathroom and showered for more than an hour without coming out. She used an entire bottle of shower gel and sprayed perfume all over the bathroom, but no matter what she did, she still felt that she was stinking. She wouldn't be able to forget that smell any time soon. She was worried that her classmates would take a picture of her miserable appearance and post it on the school forum. She put on her bathrobe and went to her computer. But what he was afraid of would happen. The forum had already exploded. A huge title, the #1 school beauty, Long Yingqing, has been sullied by that thing. Her entire heart instantly sank to the bottom of the valley. Her hatred for Jiang Xiu increased by a few points, and she quickly clicked on it. The first thing that jumped out was the photo. She had been taken as soon as she came out of the gymnasium. Her entire body was covered in that thing. When she saw this photo, blurg, Long Yingqing's snow-white face turned green on the spot. She covered her mouth and rushed into the bathroom. Jiang. The entire Long family's courtyard was filled with an uncontrollable roar, and the entire house shook. I, Long Yingqing, swear that I am irreconcilable with you. Blurg. Just as Jiang Xiu had said, Long Yingqing couldn't smell it at all. As soon as she smelled it, she immediately thought of that thing and wanted to vomit. She couldn't see green or yellow, and she wanted to vomit when she saw it. In the end, she really had to be put on saline. That beautiful little face looked like she had nothing left to live for. The elders of the Long family who had never seen her like this were really worried. How is Qingying? Still the same. I think we need to find a psychiatrist. He was here just now. A beautiful woman came out of Long Yingqing's room and sat down in the main hall. There was also an elegant middle-aged man present. These two people were Long Yingqing's parents. The psychiatrist said that she can't go to school anymore. It's best to change the environment and leave the place where the incident happened. If it's best, we can arrange for her to travel abroad. Long Xiaojing said, then let's go to Europe. It's just right, let her take care of business there. Lin Yao, a short old man standing in the corner, said, this old servant is here. You can accompany the young miss to Europe. All right. He nodded and said, then I will accompany the young miss to Europe tomorrow. That night, Cheng Lingsu accompanied him in the hospital. Zhang Xiu could finally cultivate in peace. Zhang Xiu's cultivation was currently at a standstill. The divine pattern was already complete. Logically speaking, he should be able to break through and become a god. However, he was suppressed by this world. Before he found a way, cultivation was useless. However, he had a kind of obsession with cultivation. It was like playing a game. Even though he knew that he couldn't level up, it was still very satisfying. Actually, there was no way to break through. The only trick he could play was to purify his divine power. Why doesn't heaven and earth let me become a god? Zhang Xiu really couldn't understand this matter. His situation was no different from Ji Wudao's. Although one became a god through cultivation and the other became a god through time, no matter which one it was, he still became a god in the end. Since heaven allowed Ji Wudao, it should also allow Zhang Xiu. Could it be that heaven was picking people? Suddenly, Zhang Xiu's expression changed. He felt a strange situation. His body faintly felt like it was about to break through. One should know that the last time he encountered this situation, he was suppressed by an irresistible force of heaven's wrath and vomited blood. His heart tightened, thinking that he was going to suffer another misfortune. However, in the end, it was not. What's going on? Zhang Xiu's soul flew up into the sky, and continuously ascended from the void. As his thoughts drifted further and further, Zhang Xiu began to feel a faint pressure. What's going on? Above the void, there seemed to be a mysterious and ancient existence calling out to him. Could it be? Last time he was punished by heaven, but this time he wasn't. There was no such thing in this world for no reason. There was only one explanation. The god positions in this world were originally full, but after he killed Ji Wudao, this god, there was an extra god position. That was why heaven's wrath didn't descend this time. And now, it was very likely that this was the way to become a god in this world. Thinking of this, he began to fly up against the pressure. In the pitch-black emptiness realm, he saw specks of sparkling light. That's... Zhang Xiu approached the specks of light above him and couldn't help but be dumbfounded. He saw a beam of light, and it was exactly the same as the 3 divine lights in his body. Light of the divine Tao. There were many divine lights in the void, like the vast starry sky and the 9 heavenly rivers. It was incomparably brilliant. If Zhang Xiu's guess was correct, collecting the divine lights should allow one to become a god. These divine lights were different, and their functions were definitely different. However, he didn't have a guide, so he couldn't figure out which one was more familiar than the other. Is this a skeleton? In one of the divine lights, he could vaguely see a skeleton. He wasn't interested in this kind of evil thing. Is this a flame? This reminded Zhang Xiu of the fire god's curse in the ancient desert city. This is black. The aura of destruction is so heavy. As he ascended bit by bit, Zhang Xiu began to feel strained. It became very difficult to ascend. What is this? It seems to be a little similar to the divine light of the heavenly Tao. It's green. Zhang Xiu muttered, if it's the same, will there be a superposition effect? He planned to take a look and continue to ascend. This should be the divine light of the divine Tao. Not long after, he encountered a divine light that was very similar to the underworld wheel. As his divine sense ascended, the pressure became stronger. Zhang Xiu's head swelled more and more painfully. He couldn't bear it anymore, and it felt as if his entire head was about to explode. According to his cultivation experience, the more difficult something was, the stronger it would be. Thus, he gritted his teeth and rushed to the highest point. Jiang Xiu's facial features began to bleed, and he looked very scary. However, he rushed to the highest point without any care. When he saw the strong light at the highest point, he didn't care what it was. He wanted to merge his soul first. Chapter 229. Just as Jiang Xiu was about to let his divine soul fuse with the highest divine Tao light, a voice suddenly came from the vast sky above. Who dares to steal the divine Tao firmament light? When normal people encountered such a sudden situation, their first reaction would definitely be to be stunned, but Jiang Xiu was an experienced person. He didn't care about anything else and just wanted to obtain it first. He directly wanted to start fusing with his soul. How dare you? That person angrily roared as a wave of power suddenly pressed down from above. This power was so strong that it was not something the current Jiang Xiu could resist. He was forcefully pressed down by this power from above. Jiang Xiu angrily said, "Who are you? Why are you stopping me from taking the divine Tao light?" That person coldly snorted, "Ignorant child, you don't even know who this god is and you dare to be so impudent. I am the ancestral court's emperor Fu Yao, a lower god of this world. Lower gods like you are under my jurisdiction." Jiang Xiu was not someone who could be scared with just a few words. "Since I can become a god and enter the void of this world, I have obtained the permission of the world to take any divine Tao light. You also have no right to stop me from taking any divine Tao light." That person angrily roared, "Impudent!" His voice was like the sound of the heavens pressing down, shaking Jiang Xiu's divine sense so much that it almost turned into nothingness. "I am a medium god, so this divine Tao light is naturally under this god's jurisdiction. If this god doesn't allow you to take the divine Tao light, then it won't be your turn." This divine Tao light was at the highest point, so it was definitely the strongest, but this bastard actually didn't give it to him. Jiang Xiu said, "Your actions are going against the will of the heavens." Since there was a number of divine Tao positions, they could be controlled. It was just like resources. Some ambitious people wanted to bully others. This was the desire of human nature. What kind of person was Jiang Xiu? How could he be bullied by a small god and delay his cultivation? "So what if I go against the will of the heavens?" The man seemed to have made up his mind that he would not give the divine Tao light to Jiang Xiu no matter what. Jiang Xiu chanted an incantation. He wanted to use a supreme secret art to forcefully strengthen his divine sense. Such an action was akin to a blood explosion. It would cause immense damage to his divine sense and might even endanger his life. But Jiang Xiu's nature was like this. Not only was he ruthless to his enemies, he was even more ruthless to himself. If it wasn't for this ruthlessness, he wouldn't have been able to achieve what he had today in the immortal martial continent, nor would he have been able to become the headmaster of the Tianqing school. The power of his spiritual force increased sharply in an instant. His whole body rushed upwards, desperately trying to snatch the firmament divine light. "How dare you?" Of course, he didn't use any secret technique that had huge side effects. Instead, he didn't use much of his divine sense earlier. Now, he was just doing his best. Bang! No matter who it was, their spiritual will was invisible, but when the two forces collided, the entire void seemed to tremble. "A mere half-deity dares to fight me? You're courting death." The power descending from above continued to soar. A demigod's divine sense was much weaker than a god's, let alone a mid-god's. As soon as they exchanged blows, Jiang Xiu felt as if the heavens were punishing him with an irresistible force. Boom! Jiang Xiu felt his divine Tao consciousness falling from the void. The firmament divine light instantly left him, and the other divine lights rapidly turned into tiny specks of light. Like a five-fingered mountain, they directly suppressed him. In the end, he fell into a bottomless abyss. "Brat, you've offended me. Don't even think about taking away any of the divine lights, let alone the firmament divine light. This god officially disqualifies you from the position of a god." Jiang Xiu, who was at home, suddenly opened his eyes. It was as if he was holding his breath and floating to the surface of the water. His eyes, ears, mouth, and nose were all covered in blood. His entire face was terrifyingly cold. "You won't let me become a god? Are you qualified enough?" Since the number of god positions was limited, this must be the rule of this world. This was definitely not something a mid-deity could do. In other words, as long as he had the divine light, he could become a god. Although he couldn't get the firmament divine light, he had as many as 3 other divine lights. "No, I have to become a god as soon as possible." There were limited god positions. Other than him, there must be others who coveted them. That mid-deity might even have a designated candidate. Since he could control the divine light, he could also control the candidate. He couldn't care less about his injuries. He recalled that along the way, Li Mi's divine light seemed to be hanging at the highest point. According to his judgment, Li Mi's divine light should be the strongest. Zhang Xiu decided to choose Li Mi's divine light of unknown attributes. Thinking of this, he no longer hesitated and began to let the divine light merge with him. This time, it was a merge. Before, it was just a buff. As soon as his divine consciousness relaxed, his whole body released a terrifying brilliance. Then, it broke down little by little and integrated into Zhang Xiu's body until it completely disappeared. At this time, the enormous power of the divine light completely broke out. Zhang Xiu felt that his whole body was in so much pain that it was about to explode. He clenched his teeth and made a gurgling sound, but he persevered and let the power of the divine light wander through his divine body, transforming his body and allowing the divine light to condense and take shape again. Rumble, rumble. Thunderous sounds came from Zhang Xiu's body. Countless divine light's power seemed to have substance as it rampaged through his body, constantly transforming and spinning wildly. He knew that whether or not he could become a god would depend on this moment. This feeling was like a person being molded like a clay figurine. All the cells, bones, and muscles were being reintegrated. One could imagine the degree of pain. Zhang Xiu's whole body slowly turned into nothingness. His whole body turned into a strong light, but blood kept seeping out of the corner of his mouth. With a cry, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Boom! At the same time, the entire room exploded with a strong light. This light shot up to the 9 heavens, reaching the sky beyond the heavens and into outer space. It was like a satellite being launched. He sensed a certain kind of affirmation from the heavens and earth, but he hadn't truly achieved it yet. He was about to collapse on the ground, but he still gritted his teeth and persevered. The power in his divine body continued to rise, and the divine marks on his arms became abnormally hot. His divine origin energy had yet to truly break through, and his divine body hadn't truly awakened yet. He was still lacking one final step. Oh no! Zhang Xiu realized that his power wasn't enough. In the immortal martial continent, in this kind of situation, one would definitely need to absorb more power in order to complete the final breakthrough. But here, there were no miraculous treasures or medicinal pills. It won't be a failure, right? He suddenly remembered that he still had 2 divine lights. He didn't care anymore. He also couldn't care about whether there would be a conflict between them and an accident would happen. But now, if he didn't hurry and replenish his power, the consequences would be unimaginable. No matter what, the most important thing now was to become a god. Everything was for this final breakthrough. He activated the 2 divine lights in his body. Instantly, the brilliance of the 2 divine lights increased explosively. His entire being was like a light bulb as he started to fuse with the other 2 divine lights. This time, it wasn't as painful as the previous time. Instead, there was a sense of comfort. This caused Zhang Xiu to fuse with the divine lights even faster. Zhang Xiu frenziedly absorbed the 2 divine lights. The divine lights were like some kind of energy that was being devoured by him. Everything was converted into energy for his body with 0 consumption. Boom! Zhang Xiu's mind trembled violently. It was as if a big bang had occurred in his divine origin energy. In this instant, Zhang Xiu lost consciousness, as though he was in shock. His gaze was lifeless as an unprecedented amount of information surged into his divine origin energy. Awakened. Truly awakened. He sat down cross-legged, his long hair fluttering like flames. Countless amounts of confidence awakened, and finally, they condensed into the light of the divine marks on his arms. The divine talisman was complete. Finally, the first sound of the incantation could be heard. After which, his cross-legged body slowly floated up into the air. Below him, white smoke appeared, lifting him up. This feeling was extremely marvelous. His entire person flew towards the floor-to-ceiling window, but he didn't slam into the glass. Instead, he passed through it and transformed into a white smoke, rushing out of the room. Sinking down, Jiang Xiu's true body appeared, landing on the balcony. Transcending matter, this was the mark of a god. Only those who had reached the level of a god would be able to accomplish this. At this moment, Jiang Xiu had truly become a god. In this world, gods were supreme existences. But in the immortal martial continent, gods were just the beginning. Chapter 230. Jiang Xiu inspected his left arm, but there was no sign of a second divine inscription. This caused Jiang Xiu to be pleasantly surprised. Divine inscriptions were extremely meaningful, and were also the source of the divine physique's strength. Usually, the more divine inscriptions one had, the better. But Jiang Xiu knew that this was not the case. He had once met a supreme expert from the Buddhist sect, and that expert had revealed to Jiang Xiu that he only had 3 divine inscriptions on his body. However, the strength of his Buddha physique was so strong that he stood at the peak of the immortal martial continent. In the immortal martial continent, many people would feel fear when they saw someone covered in divine inscriptions, thinking that they were very powerful. Many weak people would respectfully greet them as Lord, when they saw how many divine inscriptions they had. They didn't know that the great Tao was the simplest. Although I didn't obtain the firmament divine light, the power of 3 divine lights is definitely stronger than a single one. Jiang Xiu coldly laughed. You probably didn't expect that I would become a god either. He turned and walked towards the bedroom, directly transforming into white smoke as he passed through the glass. A white smoke floated into the room before Jiang Xiu slowly walked out from the white smoke. The glass in front of him was like nothing. The next day, Jiang Xiu heard the sound of the door opening downstairs. He went downstairs and found Chang Lingsu downstairs, her face full of fatigue. It seemed that she hadn't slept at all in the hospital. Seeing Jiang Xiu come down, she said, "You're awake. I bought breakfast. It's still hot. Hurry and eat." Jiang Xiu didn't say anything and sat down. He didn't reject the breakfast as he had a strong desire to quench his hunger. If Cheng Lingsu didn't bring any food, he would also go out to eat. Last night's consumption was too great. She took off her backpack and said, "I'm exhausted. I'll go take a shower and catch up on some sleep." After saying that, she ran upstairs. This little girl had never been so tired before. Jiang Xiu asked, "Is your sister going to keep watch tonight?" Chang Lingsu stopped and said, "Yes, we did call for a nurse, but she didn't do her best. Dad will have to do a second operation soon, so the 3 of us can only take turns." Although Jiang Xiu was her son-in-law, Cheng Lingsu had never thought of asking him for help. This was obviously unrealistic. After finishing his breakfast, Jiang Xiu went out. He didn't go to school, but to the hospital. He didn't sympathize with Chang Hanlin. He had always been prejudiced against Chang Hanlin because of what happened in his previous life. However, he couldn't bear to see Chang Lingran suffer because of him. In addition, he also wanted to test his abilities after becoming a god. Previously, he had been worried about how to use these 3 divine lights. Now, the mystery was solved. Only after becoming a god could he use the divine lights. Moreover, each divine light had its own special ability. Among them, the divine light of the god behind the heavenly Tao sect was a green divine light. Jiang Xiu could feel that this divine light had given him an extremely strong life force. When he thought about the appearance of the heavenly Tao sect, it was a time of great calamity and there was no harvest. The divine light that strengthened life force had descended from the heavens to allow him to cast spells to solve the suffering of the people. When Jiang Xiu came to the ward, there was no one in it. Cheng Hanlin was still sleeping. Sun Xiaohong should have been there, but the doctor called her away to discuss the second operation. Cheng Hanlin's spine and limbs were injured. Even if he had surgery, he could only recover to the point where he could sit in a wheelchair. If he didn't have surgery, he would be bedridden. Count yourself lucky. Your daughter paid for your debt in her previous life. Jiang Xiu stretched out a hand and floated on his body. Suddenly, his palm emitted a green light. The light was very gentle and green, giving people unlimited vitality. The green light turned into sparkling dots and sank into Cheng Hanlin's body. Then, it slowly sank into his body. The power of a god began to give him a strong vitality. So it's like this. Things were as Jiang Xiu expected. This green divine light was the divine light of vitality. However, the divine light wasn't strong enough to make Cheng Hanlin completely recover immediately. It only rejuvenated the necrotic parts. This still required a recovery process. When the green light completely sank into his body, voices came from outside the door. Sun Xiaohong pushed the door open and came in with a group of doctors. Sun Xiaohong was very surprised to see Jiang Xiu. She was very surprised. Jiang Xiu. Jiang Xiu didn't bat an eyelid. It's good that you're here. The doctor said that he needs a second operation. As a woman, I don't understand. You're very capable. Help me make a decision. Jiang Xiu said, there's no need for another operation. He should be able to recover in half a year or 10 months. The old doctor on the side said with a straight face, young man, what nonsense are you talking about? The patient's injuries are so serious. Let alone half a year or 10 months, he can't even sit up without surgery. Jiang Xiu wasn't in the mood to argue with the old doctor. He walked straight out and left the ward. Jiang Xiu. Sun Xiaohong called. Jiang Xiu didn't stop. Ms. Sun, we still have to listen to the expert's opinion. In Jiangnan, Mr. Zhang's ability was legendary. Although Sun Xiaohong hadn't seen it, she had heard a lot about it. Besides, their relationship had eased a little. She didn't want to go against Jiang Xiu's wishes and make their relationship worse. She said, let's observe for a while. This matter can't be rushed. Hearing this, the old doctor could only nod. They had to respect the opinions of the patient's family. Hanlin, wake up. Cheng Hanlin responded. After the excitement of reconciling with the Jiang family, the pain of being paralyzed in bed for a long time began to torture him. He sat up and said, just now, I think I heard Jiang Xiu's voice. Yes, he just came. After all, he married our daughter. No matter how resentful he is, it's right for him to come and see you. Sun Xiaohong was stunned as she spoke. The doctors present were all stunned. The old doctor's jaw almost dropped. How is this possible? Why are you sitting up? A doctor on the side shouted, impossible, your 12th and 17th vertebrae are all broken. It's impossible for you to sit up. But the truth was right in front of them. Cheng Hanlin was also shocked. He just sat up instinctively and didn't pay attention to it at all. He felt very strange. His physical condition was particularly good today. He felt refreshed and swept away his previous state of weakness. That young man just now. He actually got it right. The doctors present had an incredulous look on their faces. A miracle, a miracle. The old doctor shouted excitedly. Hurry, arrange for an examination. I want to see what's going on with his spine. Hurry. The old doctor was excited. Paralysis caused by the spine was a problem that hadn't been solved in medicine until now. Inform Director Wu immediately. For a moment, the whole department was in a mess. It should be said that they were in a mess of excitement. After Jiang Xiu walked out of the hospital, he stopped a taxi and went back to school. When he was about to arrive at school, Jiang Xiu received a call from Wang Xintong. The matter in Europe didn't succeed. Before this, Jiang Xiu was already mentally prepared, but he was still a little disappointed when he heard it. Jiang Xiu said, "The other party refused to sell it?" Wang Xintong said, "That's not it. The people we sent found the auction house, but the contact information left by the person who bought the item was fake. The identity was also fake." Jiang Xiu said, "This person is quite careful." Wang Xintong said rather helplessly, "Well, then what are your plans next? Give up or send more people to Europe to track down the other party?" Jiang Xiu said, "If the other party wants to hide, it won't be so easy for you to find them. Book a plane ticket for me. I'll go there personally." If the other party was not an ordinary person, it would be useless no matter how many people the Wang family sent. The longevity stone talisman was very important to Jiang Xiu. If he wanted to strengthen the knife orb, it would not be enough to nourish it with his divine essence. It might not even take shape in 100 years. He could not accept this speed. He had to collect rare materials. Wang Xintong said, "You're going to Europe. Do you want me to go with you?" Jiang Xiu said, "No need. You just take care of the matters in Jiangnan." Wang Xintong said, "My father is here in Jiangnan. With the title of the #1 demigod in China suppressing Jiangnan, no one will dare to make things difficult for you. There will be green lights all the way. It makes no difference whether I'm there or not." During the Mid-Autumn Battle, Jiang Luoxia's name shook the Chinese martial arts world. He even received special permission from Dao Yutai to integrate Jiangnan's resources. Who would dare to make things difficult for him under such circumstances? Dao Yutai would be the first to not let him off. Jiangnan's peace was the most important. Jiang Xiu said, "No need." Wang Xintong said helplessly, "All right, then be careful. I'll arrange it for you as soon as possible. Do you really not need me to go with you? I'm familiar with the place. I can be a tour guide." Jiang Xiu said, "I'm not going there for fun." Chapter 231. The next day at school, Jiang Xiu became the focus of the class. "I admire you." Zhang Luan gave him a thumbs up, Zhang Yiwei flattered, and Zhou Jin wanted to make a statue or a god tablet for Jiang Xiu. Idol. The campus forum had completely exploded. Long Yingqing fell from the #1 school bell in a straight line. Not only did she fall out of the top 4 from the first place, she couldn't even be ranked as the department belle in the department. The main thing was that after the photos of her covered in that stuff were posted on the forum, her image was completely destroyed. "Brother, you're completely popular." The horny students worshipped him. He helped one campus belle suppress another campus belle and became the most popular person on campus. I heard from Long Yingqing's classmates that Long Yingqing's family has asked for an indefinite leave from the school. They said that she might transfer schools. Zheng Luan was very well informed. "Oh, is that so?" Jiang Xiu was a little surprised. That girl was cold and he thought that she was a ruthless character. He didn't expect that she couldn't take this blow. However, Jiang Xiu didn't feel the slightest bit guilty. The winner takes all. "Jiang Xiu, do you want to find Campus Belle Cheng for lunch?" Yes. Jiang Xiu certainly wanted to find Cheng Lingran. However, he didn't have any loyalty and left the 3 horny students in the same dormitory. Because it was lunchtime, there were no pedestrians on the road in the woods around the science building. However, he saw Cheng Lingran riding a bicycle from afar. "Minor repairs." Jiang Xiu asked, "Where did the bicycle come from?" "It's my classmates. Today I'm in charge of buying snacks." Cheng Lingran had a smile on her face. It was more than 10 minutes from the girls' dormitory to the snack shop, so she had a bicycle. These girls knew how to play. "Come on." Jiang Xiu sat at the back and naturally reached out to hug Cheng Lingran's waist. Jiang Xiu was very clear about her waist. It was very thin and there was not a trace of fat on her lower abdomen. "Go." Cheng Lingran pedaled and the bicycle went on the road. The autumn afternoon sun shone on their bodies, casting their shadows on the clean cement ground. The light and shadow intertwined with the autumn trees in the distance, like the most beautiful melody of youth. Cheng Lingran rode the bicycle and hummed softly. If I didn't meet you, where would you be now? How would you be? If I didn't meet you, would I cherish my life? Up to meet you and live an ordinary life. I don't know if you would also have a love as sweet as honey. No matter how much time passes, I only care about you. I'm willing to feel your aura. How many people can I find a confidant in my life? It was not a pity to lose the power of life. So I beg you, don't let me leave you. Other than you, I can't feel a single trace of affection. A beautiful and moving sweet honey song, just like the male and female protagonists in the movie. You seem to be in a good mood today, Cheng Lingran said cheerfully. Of course, my mother called me this morning and said that my father could sit up. The doctor said that it was a miracle and that my father had a chance to recover. Treating Cheng Hanlin's illness in exchange for a sweet honey song, Jiang Xiu smiled and thought to himself, it's worth it. We've arrived at the canteen. Jiang Xiu quickly jumped down from the car, and Cheng Lingran also lightly got down from the car. After parking the car, they entered the canteen. There was no need to worry about the car being stolen on campus. I might have to go out to archaeology. Cheng Lingran turned her head and looked at Jiang Xiu in surprise. Didn't your archaeology department say that there was a situation, and that you were forbidden from going out to archaeology for the first half of this year? How can you still go? Jiang Xiu said, it's self-organized, you can't possibly neglect your studies. Cheng Lingran nodded and said, N. Then how long will you be gone for? Jiang Xiu said, I have to go abroad, the exact time depends on the situation. Cheng Lingran put all the snacks on the shelf into Jiang Xiu's basket. She didn't eat much herself, but her classmates in the same dormitory loved it. She said, Go. Just remember to bring a gift. Then she kicked the box of beer at the side. He, carry this box. A box. Cheng Lingran said, Of course. Are all girls so fierce now? Not long after sending Cheng Lingran back to the dormitory, Wang Xintong called. Her private plane didn't have an international route, so she couldn't use it. Thus, she booked a first-class seat for Jiang Xiu on the plane at 3 in the afternoon. Imperial Capital Airport. Wang Xintong booked a first-class seat, so the space was very comfortable. The stewardess was also very beautiful. Under her guidance, Jiang Xiu easily found his seat. Sir, the seat by the window is yours. Next to her was a young girl. Her long hair covered half of her face, and she wore sunglasses. Her lips were painted red, and she looked very beautiful. Her eyes seemed to be looking out of the window. Judging from her clothes, she should be the daughter of some rich family. She sat sideways with her beautiful legs tightly closed. Even though it was a strenuous thing to sit on the plane, she still maintained her posture. It could be seen that this person's cultivation was not low. What was especially eye-catching was that her legs were long and slender. However, her long legs blocked Jiang Xiu's way. Jiang Xiu had to say, Miss, please move. The beauty heard and said, You're here. Can you change seats with me? I want to sit by the window. She suddenly took off her sunglasses, revealing a beautiful snow-white face. Her beautiful eyes immediately widened. It's you. Jiang Xiu was also stunned for a moment. It's you. Wasn't this just a coincidence? This beauty was actually Long Yingqing. When enemies met, their eyes would turn red. If they had 2 knives in their hands, they would have immediately started fighting. You want to change seats? Jiang Xiu chuckled. I'm not changing. You. Long Yingqing felt that this guy was like a ghost that could be installed anywhere. She was actually able to sit on the same plane as this guy when she went out of the country, and she was even sitting right next to him. She immediately said, Flight attendant, I want to change seats. The stewardess was in a difficult position. There were only a few seats in the first class, and they were all filled with people. This, miss, then you sit down first. I'll help you ask. Hurry up. Long Yingqing looked impatient, as if she would be poisoned if she stayed with Jiang Xiu for a second. Jiang Xiu was not so polite. She stepped directly from her legs. The little devil in Long Yingqing's heart jumped. She was about to kick Jiang Xiu. But when she thought of Jiang Xiu's powerlessness, she finally decided to give up. She retracted her slender feet and threw him a disgusted look to let him experience it. "Miss, I've asked. No passengers are willing to change." Long Yingqing frowned and said, "Why are those people so ungentlemanly?" At this time, the annoying voice floated to his ear. "If you don't want to sit with me, you can sit with the people in economy class. I think they will be willing." The stewardess on the side also nodded. This is equivalent to giving people a free upgrade. Who doesn't want such a cheap thing? Long Yingqing also thinks it's a way, as long as he can get rid of the 8-clawed parasite from the Gamma planet, but on second thought, why should he be wronged like this? "You change." Jiang Xiu also gave her a disgusted look and let her experience it herself. "You." Long Yingqing's white face was even whiter. Seeing this, the stewardess asked softly with a smile, "Isn't it an ex-boyfriend?" Long Yingqing opened her beautiful eyes wide and looked at the stewardess who was blind beyond cure. "It's him. Look at what he's wearing. He's so shabby that he's never seen money in his 18 lives. His temperament is just like climbing out of the mud pit. If you put a gold chain around his neck, you'll be rich in Africa. How can this be my ex-boyfriend?" The stewardess smiled gently and quickly left. "It was dangerous here." Jiang Xiu sniffed. "What's so smelly? Oh, by the way, what's the dragon? Have you washed it clean? Why are you still smelly? Don't tell me you haven't washed your hair clean? I remember there's so much that fell on your head and seeped into your hair." Long Yingqing's expression became very unnatural. Her snow-white face gradually turned green. She had even thought of shaving her head, but in the end, she couldn't bear to do so. Well, after hearing Jiang Xiu say that, she felt, "Oh. This bastard, the pot doesn't open. No, I can't lose." Long Yingqing forced herself to hold back. "What's this green thing?" When Long Yingqing heard the green word, she couldn't help vomiting. She covered her mouth and rushed to the bathroom. Chapter 232. This made the air stewardess nervous. She anxiously said, "Miss, the plane is about to take off. The bathroom is prohibited. Can you please return to your seat?" Long Yingqing actually couldn't spit out anything. She just felt nauseous and sat back with an ugly expression. Long Yingqing pressed her hand against her chest. She was furious in her heart. This bastard really deserved 1,000 cuts. The air stewardess asked, "Are you feeling unwell? How about I find you a trash bag?" Long Yingqing shook her head. She was really unlucky today. This flight would take more than 10 hours. Could it be that she had to sit with this guy for more than 10 hours? A ghostly voice sounded, "It's better to give her one. If she vomits in the cabin, how can others stay?" "Oh right, don't take the green bag." Green. Long Yingqing couldn't listen to this word at all. Her pretty face immediately turned green. She quickly covered her mouth. This bastard was really too bad. Miss, where are you going?" Long Yingqing said without hesitation, "I'm getting off the plane." If she couldn't afford to offend him, couldn't she just hide? No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't stop him. She had already decided that no one could persuade her. If she sat with this guy, she would lose her life. But the cabin is closed and the escalator has already left. We're about to take off. How can we get off the plane at this time? The space couldn't stop her. I don't care. Long Yingqing felt that if she stayed here, she would be killed by this guy sooner or later. "Anyway, I'm going to get off the plane." The air stewardess said, "Miss, you really can't." Long Yingqing said angrily, "I'm your VIP. When you check my plane, you won't let me get off. Do you believe that I won't complain about you?" The air stewardess was in a difficult position. If she let the escalator come over, it would delay her for more than 20 minutes. That would cause a lot of trouble for the route and affect all the flights for the whole day. "Miss, can you be considerate? Right now, There's really no other way. The air stewardess also saw that the problem was with Zhang Xiu. She looked at Zhang Xiu pleadingly, hoping that he could say a few words to comfort this girl who was on the verge of collapse. Zhang Xiu said, "All right, I won't mention it. Let's not interfere with each other's business." Long Yingqing, "I'd be a fool to believe you." Zhang Xiu said, "I swear on my conscience, okay?" Long Yingqing said in her heart, to be able to be so ruthless to such a pure, beautiful, and generous young girl who could enchant all living things, what kind of credibility did this kind of person have? Your little bit of conscience has already been eaten up. Zhang Xiu said, "There's still some left for you to eat." Long Yingqing's beautiful eyes widened. "This bastard, is he calling me a dog?" She angrily spat, "You're the dog." Only then did she sit down again. After the plane took off, Zhang Xiu calmed down. He leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes, motionless. 1 hour, 2 hours, it was the same. Long Yingqing couldn't help but be curious. Was this person a statue? She stole a few glances at Zhang Xiu and found that he really didn't move. After more than 10 hours, she was already very tired, but Zhang Xiu still didn't move. She was already pregnant, but Zhang Xiu was a dead man. Ladies and gentlemen, because our destination, Gaul Airport, is currently raining heavily, we can only temporarily stop by Luo Wu. We apologize for the inconvenience. When the announcement came out, the cabin exploded. However, the weather was unpredictable. If the captain forcefully flew through the thunderstorm area, it would be irresponsible to them. How could it be like this? Although they were unwilling, there was nothing they could do. It wasn't until the plane landed that Zhang Xiu opened his eyes and prepared to get off the plane with the others. In by Luo Wu, they were only 200 kilometers away from Gaul. Some people would stay at the airport to wait for the relevant follow-up procedures. Some people who were familiar with Europe would rent their own cars or take the subway. It was Zhang Xiu's first time going abroad, so he was unfamiliar with the place. He planned to wait at the airport for the airline's arrangements, but it was said that there was no way for them to wait for a while. They had to wait for 4 hours. 4 hours was enough for them to take a car to Gaul, and after more than 10 hours of flight, they were already exhausted. Thus, Zhang Xiu changed his mind and went to a hotel near the airport to stay for the night. However, coincidentally, because Long Yingqing had not eaten much recently, her body was very weak. She also planned to find a hotel to stay in the hospital, but they bumped into each other at the hotel. Long Yingqing looked at Zhang Xiu and actually smiled. Needless to say, this ice-cold little girl's smile wasn't just beautiful. Her ice-cold face became incomparably lively, revealing a mouthful of pure white teeth. However, why was this girl smiling for no reason? Moreover, her smile was very strange. Zhang Xiu said, "What are you laughing at? Have you never seen a handsome guy before?" Long Yingqing said, "You're handsome, my ass. You look like Zhu Beiji's second uncle." However, the smile in her eyes did not weaken in the slightest. Then, she turned around and checked in. "Give me a room." Zhang Xiu also planned to take out his ID and check in, but when he touched it, his expression changed. "Where's my bag?" Why would he need a human? He was a dignified deity. Could it be that someone could steal the bag from under his nose? But his bag was really gone. "Miss, this is your room card. Please keep it well." Zhang Xiu frowned and saw Long Yingqing reach out to take the room card, waving her hand to show off to him. She pulled her luggage and walked inside. Zhang Xiu grabbed my hand. "Where's my bag?" Long Yingqing struggled twice. "How would I know where your bag is?" Zhang Xiu said, "You're laughing so strangely, it must be related to you." Long Yingqing opened her eyes wide. "You're surnamed Lai, why are you always blaming me? Let go, if you don't let go, I'll call you molester. Do you think this is still China, people have guns? Let go." The foreign man on the side couldn't stand it anymore and walked over, speaking in English. "Brat, hurry up and let go of this lady's hand, otherwise, I'll teach you a lesson." Zhang Xiu was angry and kicked him in the stomach. That brave foreign man screamed and curled up like a shrimp. Jiang Xiu said coldly, "Hurry up and tell me, where's my bag?" Long Ying-ching couldn't deal with this violent man. "You left it on the plane and forgot to take it." Xiu Shen was stunned. This time, he was embarrassed. It turned out that he had forgotten to take it. Who could take away his wallet under the eyes of Xiu Shen? He could only return to the airport. However, the airport staff couldn't find his luggage. According to the airline staff, it might have been taken by someone. His ID was inside, his bank cards were all inside, including the black card with 1 billion. Ding dong! Long Ying-ching had just finished bathing and went to open the door when she heard the doorbell. The door had just opened a little when Jiang Xiu pushed the door open and walked in. Long Ying-ching said, "It's you. I was wondering why you barged into someone's room." Jiang Xiu said, "I didn't find the bag." Long Ying-ching was happy and thought to herself, "You deserved it." However, the situation was a little strange. She said, "So what does it have to do with me?" Jiang Xiu said, "I'm going to stay here for the night. Someone will come to pick me up tomorrow." Long Ying-ching crossed her arms in front of her chest. "Why should I let you stay?" Jiang Xiu looked at her and didn't say anything. Long Ying-ching said, "What, are you trying to scare me? I'm just stubborn and I'm not afraid of your threats. Also, we're all Chinese and have to pay attention to our image overseas. But this is a public place. Jiang, that's enough. Don't think that you can really fight. Last time, I was careless and underestimated you. Don't think that I can't beat you. Alright. You sleep on the sofa outside." In the end, Long Ying-ching still succumbed to Jiang Xiu's martial arts intimidation and stomped her feet fiercely. She was really unlucky. She met him on the plane and then in a hotel. He was a gangster and robber. Don't let me have the chance to teach you a lesson. Ding dong. The doorbell rang at this moment. Long Ying-ching went to open the door and saw 2 foreign police officers standing outside. "Why are the police here?" The foreign police officers showed their police ID to them. "We just received a report that someone said that you are engaged in illegal activities here. Now, please come back with us to assist in the investigation." Long Ying-ching blushed when she heard this. What was going on? She said angrily, "Who is so wicked? We didn't do anything." Chapter 233. The police officer said, "You know whether or not you've done anything illegal." Long Ying-hong had never been humiliated like this in her life. She bit her lip and said, "Mr. Police Officer, it's really a misunderstanding. We're friends. There's definitely nothing like what you said." Jiang Xiu was also very embarrassed. In addition, he had lost his passport. He was a little angry. "You should use your brain a little when you do things. I'm dressed neatly. What can I do?" The police officer pointed at Long Ying-hong. Well, she was wearing a bathrobe and her hair was wet. He didn't know if she was wearing anything under the bathrobe. The police officer shrugged his shoulders. His meaning was obvious. "Do you still need me to explain?" Jiang Xiu said, "I wouldn't be interested in her even if she sent me to bed. Even if I really want to sleep with her, I have to find someone with a hotter figure, right?" This sentence immediately angered the school belle of Long Ying-hong. She directly scolded in English, "Damn bastard, look at your bare appearance. You look like an African refugee. Even if I'm blind, I won't like you." Jiang Xiu said, "Do you still think you're the #1 school belle of Imperial Capital University? Save it. The school belle of Imperial Capital University has long fallen from the list. Being the class belle is smelly." Long Ying-hong roared, "I'll fight it out with you today." The foreign police officer said, "Stop." He pointed at Jiang Xiu and asked Long Ying-hong, "You don't admit it, right? Then what's his name?" This was the most common screening method used by police officers to crack down on prostitution. Long Ying-hong only remembered that Jiang Xiu's surname was Jiang. When she cursed in her heart, it was all about the surname Jiang. She really didn't know the specifics. Jiang Jiang, Jiang Xiu said coldly, Zhang Xiu. Yes, Zhang Xiu. The police officer smiled and pointed at Long Inghong. What's her name? Zhang Xiu couldn't remember Long Inghong's ugly name. Long Long. Long Ingqing was furious in her heart. Are you a man or not? What do you usually pay attention to? She was such a famous school belle, yet he couldn't even remember her name. She said angrily, Long Ingqing. The two foreign police officers said, Stop acting, my friend. We've seen your tricks many times. You're not allowed to have sex here. It's illegal. Long Ingqing said angrily, If you dare to talk nonsense again, I'll slap you. The police officer said, What? In the words of the Chinese, you're allowed to do immoral things, but you're not allowed to talk about it. If you really feel embarrassed and humiliated, then don't come out to sell yourself. Long Ingqing grabbed the collar of the bathrobe and kicked out with her long white legs. Bang bang. The two police officers were sent flying. Bang. The door was slammed shut by Long Ingqing. From Zhang Xiu's observation, one of the two police officers had broken ribs and the other had a concussion. They were both guilty of assault. Zhang Xiu said, You're ruthless enough. I'm afraid it'll be even more troublesome. Long Ingqing glared fiercely at Zhang Xiu. Isn't it all because of you? After she entered, she closed the door. It didn't take long for her to change her clothes. Her hair was slightly wet and she was wearing a fiery red windbreaker. Zhang Xiu realized that she seemed to like wearing red clothes. It made her skin look especially delicate and snow-white. He said, Let's go. Zhang Xiu asked in surprise, Where are we going? Long Ingqing said, Turn yourself in. She had hit someone in a fit of anger just now. However, this wasn't the country. She still planned to go to the police station to settle the matter. Zhang Xiu laughed out loud. You're turning yourself in to the Russians? Long Ingqing said, Do you think this is the country? Zhang Xiu said, We don't need it in the country, and we don't need it here either. If you anger me, I'll destroy Goluya too. Long Ingqing cursed. Crazy. Who do you think you are? Even the President of the United States wouldn't dare to say such a thing. Don't cause any more trouble. Come with me. I can settle this matter. Today's matter was because of the two of them. Long Ingqing had no choice but to drag Zhang Xiu along. Otherwise, she wouldn't care about Zhang Xiu's life and death. At the local police station, Zhang Xiu leaned against the door and Long Ingqing walked in. When the police officer saw such a beautiful Eastern girl come in, he greeted her warmly. Madam, is there anything I can do for you? Long Ingqing said coldly, I'm here to report and turn myself in. Turn yourself in? Long Ingqing said, Your two colleagues wronged me. One of them had a rib broken by me and the other had a concussion by me. As she spoke, she sat down on the chair. Her appearance was arrogant and cold. She didn't look like she was here to turn herself in at all. The police officer sized up Long Ingqing from head to toe. She might not even be 7 meters tall, but because of her long legs, she was very tall. However, she weighed less than 100 pounds and looked extremely weak. That person immediately laughed, and the police officers in the office also laughed. Madam, where are you from? Long Ingqing said, China. Madam from China, you just said that you broke one of our police officers' ribs and gave the other a concussion? Ha ha ha. The police station was in a mess of laughter. Bang. Long Ingqing suddenly jumped into the air and gave a fierce side kick. The police officer only felt his vision blur and the cigarette in his mouth flew out. However, he was definitely fine. Fast, ruthless, accurate. The laughter stopped abruptly, and no one dared to look down on this girl who looked so weak that she couldn't even stand a gust of wind. My surname is Long. About an hour later, the sound of a helicopter rang out outside the police station. A middle-aged man came down from the helicopter. He was Chinese, in his early 40s, and had an arrogant face. There was also a fat white man with him. Sorry to trouble you, Mayor Hamill. Hamill smiled and said, It's a small matter. I'll go in and bail him out. Hamel entered the police station and said to Long Ing-ching, Miss Long, I'm very happy to see you. Your uncle and I are very good friends. He wanted to use a European standard gift to express his welcome, but Long Ing-ching had already returned to her persona. She coldly ignored his outstretched hand, making him extremely embarrassed. Your matter has been settled. Those bastard police officers went to the hotel to check the rooms. Their goal was to fine you a few €100, but they didn't expect to kick a steel plate. I'm very sorry about this. Long Ing-ching's expression was ice cold. She stood up and said, Now, can my friend and I leave? Of course, your uncle is waiting for you outside. The middle-aged man had already arrived in front of Zhang Xiu. He sized up Zhang Xiu from head to toe. There was nothing special about him, and his clothes were not up to standard. He was just an ordinary person. Just as he was about to speak, he saw Long Ing-ching come out of the police station. The middle-aged man's expression became ugly. Your parents said you came alone and brought a friend. Why didn't you say anything? Long Ing-ching was about to speak when the middle-aged man gestured for her not to explain. Our Long family has a reputation. We have to consider the impact of everything we do. Fortunately, this is abroad. If it was in China, where would the Long family's face go? Long Ing-ching stared at the middle-aged man with wide eyes. Her expression was one of shock. She wanted to speak, but when she moved her lips to explain, the middle-aged man had already said, You're still standing here. Isn't it embarrassing enough? Long Ing-ching was furious. Her angry gaze swept towards Zhang Xiu. It was all because of this bastard. Ever since she met this bastard in the cafeteria, she had been unlucky. You go first. Long Ing-ching helplessly walked towards the helicopter. The middle-aged man stared at Zhang Xiu. He wanted to say something, but after looking at Zhang Xiu for a long time, he said, Let's leave this place and go back to Galuya first. If it rains later, the helicopter won't be able to leave. Zhang Xiu thought to himself that since he was going to Galuya, he would take a free helicopter ride. Long Ing-ching saw that Zhang Xiu had come with her uncle and her eyes widened. She thought to herself that this guy's face was really thick. He still wanted to take their plane. Uncle, I'm not familiar with him. There's no need to bring him along. The middle-aged man said, Now you know how to embarrass yourself. Let's see how you explain this to your family later. He patted the seat of the pilot in front and said, Get ready to go. Long Ing-ching was dumbstruck. I really have nothing to do with him. Boom, boom, boom. The helicopter rumbled. The middle-aged man had already put on his headphones, so he could no longer hear what Long Ing-ching said. Looking at Zhang Xiu, Long Ing-ching wanted to push him off the plane. Chapter 234. The helicopter took less than half an hour to arrive at a huge manor on the outskirts of Galuya, which was a distance of 100 to 200 kilometers. When the helicopter stopped, the rain became heavier and heavier. A car drove over from the huge and solemn castle. After the three of them got off the helicopter, they sat in the car and entered the manor. The wealth and style of the Long family somewhat exceeded Zhang Fan's expectations. In terms of wealth, the Long family was far from being comparable to the rich people on the Forbes list. Just this castle and the continuous wine manor were probably worth no less than $1 billion. There were many people sitting in the castle, holding red wine and admiring the rain outside. The middle-aged man walked in with Long Ing-ching and Zhang Xiu. We've brought them back. The atmosphere was very strange. Although the people present had already noticed their arrival, no one turned around to look at them. They minded their own business, drank their wine, and watched the rain fall outside. Then, Long Ing-ching's uncle said to the servant, Take these gentlemen to the guest room to rest. Zhang Xiu happened to be tired, so he followed them. His guest room was on the second floor, and from the window, he could see the scenery in the castle's lobby. With the power of a god, not only could he see clearly, he could also hear their conversation clearly. Ing-ching. A woman finally put down her wine glass and looked at Long Ing-ching. How old are you? You're still so willful. Do you know the consequences of your actions? Long Ying-ching remained silent. Do you know what the consequences would be if this matter were to reach the ears of the Li family of the Chao country? You said you wanted to come back from the Chao country, and we listened to you. You said you wanted to study in the capital, and we also listened to you. Now, you're bringing such a man home? The atmosphere was very oppressive, as if everyone present was in a heavy mood. Long Ying-ching's face was cold and she didn't say anything. My good cousin, back then, when grandfather said that you would have the final say in the Long family in the future, you really thought that you were the head of the family. Don't be naive, that was because the crown prince of the Li family took a fancy to you. Grandfather coaxed you to set up an engagement with him. Now, you've given such a big gift to that person from the Li family. Do you think any man can stand this kind of thing? Long Ying-ching said, Don't slander me. I'm slandering you? The woman laughed. You've already been arrested and brought to the police station. I can accuse you, but the police officer has no enmity with you. How can he accuse you? Long Ying-ching said, I knew it. Why would a police officer come up all of a sudden? So it was you guys who set me up. The woman said, Empty words. Do you have any proof? You don't, right? You don't, but we do. Then, this living man is the best evidence. Long Ying-ching's expression changed. No wonder her uncle wanted to bring Jiang Xiu back. She had even said that she had nothing to do with Jiang Xiu. It turned out that he was waiting for her here. That bastard Jiang Xiu really did a lot of harm. You spilled soup on me in the cafeteria, and then you even accused me of selling shit. After that, I made you feel disgusted on the plane, and when I stayed in a hotel, people said that I was selling that. Now, I'm being used as evidence. What kind of sin did I, Long Ying-ching, in my previous life to provoke a monster like you? Long Xiuyin, what do you want? Long Ying's delicate eyebrows rose in anger. What do I want to do? Give up the benefits of your branch. All these years, your family has taken all the advantages, and it's time to spit them out. There are so many people, and your family has more benefits than everyone combined. Do you think it's fair? Long Xiuyin said. Long Ying-ching said, What if I say no? Long Xiuyin said, Then the matter of you and this wild man will spread to the Li family of the Chao Gua. At that time, the Li family will want to break off the engagement with you. Do you think that with grandfather's current condition, he can withstand this stimulation? I guess he definitely won't be able to take it. If he can't catch his breath. You know that this kind of thing is hard to say. Long Ying-ching was so angry that her little face turned pale. You, Long Xiuyin came to Long Ying-ching's side and put her hand on her shoulder. Why do you care? You're a girl after all. Your husband's family is still the Li family of the Chao Gua. Sooner or later, you'll marry over. Long Ying-ching was so angry that her entire body trembled. When Jiang Xiu heard this, he more or less understood Long Ying-ching's situation. The royal family had no familial love, and the rich families were as deep as the ocean. The Jiang family was like this, and the Long family was also like this. So many people plotted against a little girl just for the sake of benefits. At this moment, when Jiang Xiu looked at Long Ying-ching, it was as if he saw himself entering the Jiang family in his previous life. Whether or not Long Ying-ching would hand over the benefits, Jiang Xiu was no longer interested in knowing. These things had nothing to do with him. Today was a coincidence. He was with Long Ying-ching, and if it were anyone else, it would be the same, so he didn't feel any guilt. He moved his feet and came to a chair. The servant opened a red wine for him and also prepared some pastries for him to slowly eat. Sir, our master has feelings. About half an hour later, the middle-aged man from before, Long Ying-ching's uncle, invited Jiang Xiu to a living room. The wind and rain outside were heavy and cold, so he lit some firewood in the living room so that the air wouldn't be so damp and uncomfortable. Sit. Jiang Xiu sat down indifferently. He didn't raise his head to look at Jiang Xiu. In his eyes, Jiang Xiu was just an insignificant character. He opened his mouth and said, Traveling by helicopter and living in a European royal castle like this, I'm sure you've already seen that our Long family isn't an ordinary family. Indeed, the Long family was definitely not an ordinary family. It's good that you're not nervous and afraid. It shows that your psychological quality is not bad. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to stay calm if they saw their girlfriend driving a sports car and living in a villa, let alone driving a helicopter and living in a royal castle. Zhang Xiu smiled faintly. Why did you call me here? The middle-aged man said, You should know. Why make me say it and embarrass everyone? It's better for everyone to be friendly. We don't mind you being friends with Ying Qing. In the future, if you encounter any problems, you can come to us, but other things can't be done. You're a smart person. You should understand. Zhang Xiu said, She and I are just ordinary friends. No, not even ordinary friends. To be more precise, they should be enemies. The middle-aged man laughed. It's really pleasant to talk to smart people. As he spoke, he took out a check and pressed it on the table and pushed it towards Zhang Xiu. Zhang Xiu was really curious about what price this man would give him. But just as Zhang Xiu reached out to take it, an extremely angry voice sounded, Zhang Xiu, come out. There was no need to guess. It was our school beauty Long Ying Qing. She originally went to find Zhang Xiu, but found that he wasn't there. She asked the servants and learned that he was invited by his uncle, so she rushed over and saw this scene. At this moment, Long Ying Qing rushed over like a furious dinosaur. She looked at Zhang Xiu with disdain, disgust, hatred, and finally disdain. She grabbed Zhang Xiu's arm and said, Come here. Zhang Xiu was pulled out by her. Long Ying Qing had never seen such a shameless person in her life. Just now, he really reached out to ask for the check. She coldly asked, What are you doing? Zhang Xiu said, Your uncle told me to chat with him, so I chatted with him. Do you think I'm blind? What's on the table? Check. Long Ying Qing said, Zhang Xiu, oh Zhang Xiu, although I think you're despicable, I admire your courage to protect Cheng Lingran. But I didn't expect you to be such a person. What right do you have to take that check? What right do you have to take it? You're shameless. Zhang Xiu was very innocent. Your uncle gave it to me. If someone gives you money, there's no reason to not take it, right? If you don't want it, then you're really shameless. Long Ying Qing said, You. Talking about reason and principles with people like Zhang Xiu was simply playing the lute to a cow. Zhang Xiu, I'm warning you, I have nothing to do with you. Don't think about taking advantage of my family. You don't have the right to take that check. I won't chase you away when it's raining outside, but tomorrow when the sky clears up, you'll immediately scram for me. Never, never appear in my sight again. Otherwise, I don't even know what I'll do. This bastard was her nemesis. She had to completely stay away from him. Zhang Xiu said, Okay. We're just strangers who met by chance. I'll leave early tomorrow morning, okay? But I'm penniless. You should be able to lend me a few €100. Pfft. Long Ying Qing almost vomited blood. Chapter 235. Zhang Xiu had lost his passport and was penniless. Although Long Ying Qing didn't think it had anything to do with him, this guy was a big disaster. If she didn't send him away, she would be the unlucky one. She could only grit her teeth and say, Come with me. Zhang Xiu smiled and followed her, saying casually, Many of your family members live here. Long Ying Qing said, It's none of your business. Well, this girl had already reached the point where she didn't know how to argue. Zhang Xiu didn't say anything else and followed her into a room deep in the castle. The room was filled with a European medieval feeling. She rummaged through it and found a €500 note and handed it to Zhang Xiu. Then, this is for you. In the future, you will completely disappear from my sight. That's enough. You want to send us away with spiritual cultivation with just €500? However, Zhang Xiu really had no interest in getting involved with this girl. Zhang Xiu took the money and turned to leave. Although 500 euros wasn't much, it was enough for him to leave this place and enter the big city of Gaol. But after taking a few steps, Jiang Xiu stopped and asked, "Finally, can I ask you a question?" Long Ying-ching impatiently crossed her arms and said, "Ask." Jiang Xiu said, "Did you have a big change when you were young? Moreover, only by living in this castle will your illness be under control." Long Ying-ching was stunned. She was quite shocked. When she was 4 years old, there was a big change. She had a high fever and the doctors were helpless. Almost everyone in her family thought she was dead for sure. However, her grandfather, who loved her, brought her to Europe. Just like today, she happened to pass by here and stayed for a night. She didn't cry or make a fuss, and her condition improved greatly. Therefore, the Long family bought this place, and Long Ying-ching recovered not long after. Only her close relatives knew about this matter. "How did you know?" Jiang Xiu smiled faintly and said, "Looking at your soul, the compatibility between your body and your soul isn't very high. If I'm not wrong, you experienced a soul swap when you were young. The so-called soul swap only happens when a child's skull hasn't healed and is seriously ill and on the verge of death. Only then will a wandering soul have the opportunity to occupy your body. Have you heard that a child's temperament changes greatly after recovering from a serious illness because of a soul swap?" Long Ying-ching sneered, "If you say that my soul has been swapped, then why don't I know it myself?" "Nonsense." Jiang Xiu said, "After a wandering soul takes over your body, you won't have any memories. Of course, you won't know. You've always thought that you were you. However, I'm guessing that you don't remember anything before you got sick." Long Ying-ching said, "I was so young at that time, of course it's impossible for me to remember. Don't try to mislead the crowd with your lies." Jiang Xiu said, "All right, it's still annoying. If Long Ying-ching's soul had been swapped, then the little girl's soul back then would have already died, and the current Long Ying-ching would be the real Long Ying-ching. However, people who had their souls swapped, because the compatibility between their bodies and souls was not perfect, would often have problems with their bodies. They would feel inexplicably uncomfortable, dizzy, and angina. Let's go." After Jiang Xiu left, Long Ying-ching was a little absent-minded. She looked at herself in the mirror, and the reflection in the mirror suddenly became so unfamiliar, as if she had never seen her before. "This bastard must be trying to scare me on purpose." Long Ying-ching thought fiercely, but in his heart, he couldn't help but suspect that he was a soul swapper. When he was 4 years old, he fell ill and his original soul was gone. He was occupied by a ghost, which was himself, and then began his life as Long Ying-ching. "Hey, what are you thinking, Long Ying-ching?" He was ruthless in his heart. Jiang Xiu, that bastard, he had already left, yet he was still pretending to be mysterious. However, Long Ying-ching seemed to remember that she had once read an ancient Greek book that mentioned the possibility of this phenomenon existing. Moreover, ever since she was young, her grandfather had never let her go to a temple, especially the ancient Path Academy in Europe. "It can't be." Jiang Xiu had indeed been scaring Long Ying-ching just now, but it was true that Long Ying-ching's soul compatibility was not perfect. Looking at her snow-white face and red lips, it was obvious that she was extremely bewitching. This was just the appearance, but it was not that her soul had been swapped, but that she had been sacrificed. When Long Ying-ching came here back then, someone must have used the soul-entering technique to treat her illness and take her life. The method was not bad, and it was definitely not bad to be able to make the spiritual cultivation think that it was not bad. Unfortunately, that person did not strip the dead remnant soul from the body. There were two possibilities. One was that it was impossible, but since even such a brilliant method like planting a soul to substitute for death could be done, it would definitely not be a problem to strip the remnant soul from the body. Then, there was only one possibility left, which was to stay in Long Ying-ching's body forever as a sacrifice medium, collecting Long Ying-ching's life or her energy to nourish himself. There was never a free lunch in this world. The various discomforts that appeared on Long Ying-ching's body were the after-effects of the sacrifice. The rain was getting heavier and heavier. The quiet royal castle stretched across the undulating plains. It was full of European flavor, full of evil and mysterious aura. As night fell, everything around it became even more oppressive. In the middle of the night, Jiang Xiu seemed to hear a strange cry in his sleep. "This is the person who took the thing you wanted." Jiang Xiu picked it up and glanced at it. It was a European man. It was too difficult to find such a person in Goryeo. Moreover, he might not stay in Goryeo. "Go to the modern building where the fire happened today," the man said in surprise. "Why are we going there?" Jiang Xiu was not so polite to him. He glanced at him coldly, and he immediately understood that he had said too much. He immediately lowered his head and opened the car door for Jiang Xiu. After helping him to his seat, he ran to open the car door. Chapter 236. There were a lot of onlookers gathered near the skyscraper. There were dozens or hundreds of people. It would have caused a sensation in China, but it was the same here. It was clearer at the scene than on TV. A landmark skyscraper seemed to have been cut off by a giant with a sharp blade. Inside the building, the relevant personnel were doing an inspection. As for the fire, it should be caused by the damage to the circuit inside the building. Wang Dingshan asked, "Mr. Jiang, is this really caused by space folding?" Jiang Xiu didn't speak but stood where he was. His forehead was shining with a white light, and the knife pellet in his spirit essence flashed out. After becoming a god, his spirit essence was unobstructed, and the knife pellet had truly become a part of his body. He didn't need to tremble as he used it before. The knife pellet slowly rose into the air, reaching a height of dozens of meters. Finally, it floated in the damaged part of the building. Boom! The knife pellet suddenly shook, and a powerful knife intent surged out. No one could imagine how terrifying this knife intent was. It instantly swept out like a gust of wind. The knife intent spread out, and there seemed to be huge ripples in the sky. At this time, Jiang Xiu shook his head slightly and said, "I'm not sure." Judging from the scene, it was indeed not a sword technique or a saber technique. There was no residual sword intent or knife intent. Otherwise, the knife pellet and knife intent would inevitably resonate. This was Jiang Xiu's method of exploring knife intent. However, he used to use sword intent, but now he used knife intent. It was one of the secret methods of Chenqing school to chase enemies. As for whether it was due to space folding, he wasn't sure. However, although he didn't see anything from the skyscraper, Jiang Xiu felt many martial arts practitioners and unnatural presences among the people present. These people should have also been attracted by the strange scene of the skyscraper. A young European man seemed to be taking pictures of the skyscraper with a camera. In fact, Jiang Xiu felt that he had taken several pictures of himself in a row. Perhaps he noticed that Jiang Xiu was looking at him, so he deliberately took pictures of the skyscraper again. He even chatted with the people beside him for a while before he turned around and left. He looked very professional and cautious. He quickened his pace and passed by a woman. The camera in his hand fell into her hand. He said softly, "This person might really be the new super demigod who ranked third on the demigod ranking, Jiang Luoxia. Inform the relevant people immediately and pay close attention." The European woman's expression did not change. "Got it." In an instant, the European woman turned into another street and came to the side of the plaza. She sat on a bench and saw a man reading a newspaper. The woman said, "Jiang Luoxia coming to Goryeo is such a big matter. Why didn't you inform us? What's the purpose of his trip? Does he have anything to do with the skyscraper?" The person reading the newspaper was a man with black eyes and black hair. "There's no need to be so nervous. It has been confirmed in the country that Jiang Luoxia has indeed left the country and come to our country. However, he might just be traveling." The woman sneered. "Are you crazy? The number one demigod was traveling? Are you trying to fool a 3-year-old? The man said, "No matter what he's here for, we didn't receive any mission, did we? Moreover, with his strength, what we can do is very limited. Let's wait for orders from the higher-ups." The woman said, "Aren't you Chinese people very homesick and homebody?" The man said, Mr. Jiang is an exception. He's not even 20 years old. It's normal for him to come out and see the world." The woman cursed fiercely. 20 years old. What af *king age? The man laughed. A 20-year-old demigod was really shocking. A smug look appeared on his indifferent face, as if he was proud of him. Elysium has an old grudge with him. An unknown person died in his hands. Elysium might want to do something. Mr. Jiang's trip to Europe will not be easy for us. Everyone, be on your guard. A fat European man with a big belly was munching on a hot dog. He stepped on the fountain beside the bench and said, "I've received news that Mr. Jiang came with a young lady of the Long family." The person reading the newspaper couldn't help but look surprised. The Long family is a branch of Elysium. Why would they be involved with Mr. Jiang? Is it Miss Long who is engaged to the Li family of Chaogua? The fat European man finished the hot dog in a few bites. He clapped his hands and said, "That's right." After that, he seemed to have come to enjoy the scenery. He took one last look at the scenery here and turned to leave. The person reading the newspaper frowned. What the hell is going on? The Long family and the Li family of Chaogua are all branches of Elysium. Why would they be involved with Mr. Jiang? The European woman's expression became extremely solemn. This advanced Mr. Jiang wouldn't want to enter the heavenly gates, would he? The person reading the newspaper couldn't stay calm anymore. He was stunned. The European woman continued, "If Elysium offers him an important position, such as the third or even the second throne, even a super demigod would be tempted." The man reading the newspaper was already livid. If that's the case, Hua Nation is in big trouble. He couldn't sit still anymore. He stood up and said, "No, I have to report this to my superiors immediately." At the same time, in an old castle in Europe, the handsome blonde man, King Alex, walked into the meeting room with a monk in a green sweater. The monk's voice was very soft, but it was very harsh. "Our guest is here, King Alex." King Alex said, "Isn't this what we wanted?" The monk stopped in his tracks. He was still holding a walking stick in his hand. He said, "But don't forget, when we made this plan, it was to avenge the unknown king. However, this happened before he killed Ji Wudao. Now, he is ranked third on the divine roll, the number one demigod in Hua Nation. Can we kill him?" He pointed at a crow resting on a withered tree in the distance and said, "Look, even the Grim Reaper is here." The handsome King Alex smiled evilly and said, "Is there anyone in this world that Elysium can't kill even if we want to? Even if we can't kill him, he can't kill me." His hand grabbed a plaque hanging in front of his chest. There were 2 dragons coiled on it. The underground forces said that King Alex had a divine artifact called the Yin-Yang Twin Dragons. It was said to be the strongest defense in the world. It was said that it could be produced without any pressure under an atomic bomb. The monk laughed. His voice was like a broken gong. "Do you want to improve your ranking on the demigod roll?" King Alex said, "No one cares about that stupid ranking. If Zhu doesn't care, who cares?" The 2 of them continued to walk inside. By the time they entered, there were already many people inside. They were all demigods of Elysium scattered around the world. They had all been gathered because of the arrival of the number one demigod in Hua Nation. This time, the number of people who came was even more than the last time when the unknown person was killed. A man in a black robe had his back facing everyone. He was holding the longevity stone talisman that appeared at the auction house in his hand. "Is everyone here? Then let's start today's theme. There is only one theme. Descend the 9 mysteries and cleanse the heavens. Do 1,000 years of work." Zhang Luoxia. A tall man in a military uniform said, "We're ready to join forces at any time." No matter how strong Zhang Luoxia is, it's impossible for him to win against 3 or 4 demigods. Moreover, we've gathered so many people this time. "Sir, aren't you making a mountain out of a molehill?" The man in the black robe said, "Of course, killing him is not a problem. However, I have a new idea. Isn't Elysium in need of such talents? Just like how we accepted everyone else, let us accept Zhang Luoxia. As soon as he said that, the place fell silent. Sir, don't forget that he was the one who killed the unknown person. The man in the black robe said, it's precisely because we lost the unknown that we need someone to replenish our strength. Another person said, this kind of person, we don't know his background and temperament. It's too risky to use him. What if he can't be controlled? It might even affect our internal affairs. Yes, that's right. Many people began to discuss. Some agreed, some disagreed, but there were many who disagreed. Moreover, the monk asked, will Zhang Luoxia agree? Demigods were all proud and aloof, not to mention the title of the #1 demigod in Hua Nation. The man in the black robe said, the rules of Elysium state that everyone who enters Elysium has to undergo a test. We also have to take his most important person as a hostage. He will be obedient. He will either be used by me or die. Chapter 237. At an antique auction house in Galuya, Wang Dingshan said, Mr. Zhang, this is the St. Adolphe Antiques auction house. The item you want was auctioned off from here. Zhang Xiu glanced at the auction house. It looked a little like a church and had a strong sense of history. It should be an old building. Let's go in and take a look. Behind the glass cabinets along the way were some European antiques. There were even some that looked like Chinese bronze. Seeing that there were guests, the staff of the auction house went up to greet them. When he saw Wang Dingshan, he smiled and said, Mr. Wang, you're here again. Wang Dingshan said, this is my boss, Mr. Zhang. The staff said respectfully, Mr. Zhang, hello. It's an honor to have you at our auction house. Unfortunately, the item you want has already been sold. Also, the buyer left behind false information. We can't do anything about it. Zhang Xiu looked around the antiques. I'm not here to look for the buyer's information. If he wants to hide it, it won't be easy to find it. I'm here to look for the seller's information. The longevity rune stone could promote the deification of mortals. He was also curious about who would sell the longevity rune stone. Was he affected by the longevity rune stone? Zhang Xiu's words were beyond the staff's expectations. What's wrong? Is it inconvenient? Zhang Xiu's cold gaze fell on the face of the skinny European who looked to be about 50 years old. The latter smiled apologetically and said, it's convenient, of course it's convenient. He went to find the registration information. Dear sir, I hope I can help you. However, the result disappointed Zhang Xiu. He couldn't contact the person. The phone number had become a dead number. The person's bank account had also been deleted. Walking out of the auction house, Zhang Xiu was silent. This matter made him feel strange. Anonymous selling and anonymous buying. It made him feel like his left hand had been turned over to his right hand. He felt that this might be a trap used to deal with people. As far as the longevity rune stone was concerned, no one would sell it. His phone rang. It was Wang Xintong. Where are you? How are things? Any progress? Zhang Xiu said, not at the moment. Wang Xintong said, then what are your plans? Are you going back or staying here for the time being? Zhang Xiu said, of course I'll leave it here. There must be a reason why this thing appeared once, and it will definitely appear a second time. I must obtain this thing. Wang Xintong said, oh. That's right, I'm calling to tell you that a while ago, all of Zhongqian's businesses were suspended, and I've taken over the position of the CEO of a famous luxury diamond brand in Galuya. There will be a banquet tonight, and there will be luxury jewelry for sale. You should go to Europe and buy some gifts for the old lady and the one in your heart. Zhang Xiu didn't like Wang Xintong mentioning Cheng Lingran. However, she reminded him right this time. He couldn't just focus on doing things and delay buying gifts for them. The things that will be auctioned at the banquet are all good things that can't be bought outside. Wang Xintong said, if you're interested in going, let Wang Dingshan go and get the invitation. This banquet is an anniversary celebration. It's unprecedentedly grand, and the standards are very high. When he returned to the hotel, the entrance was blocked by a group of Chinese people. Zhang Xiu took a closer look and saw an outrageously beautiful girl pulling a suitcase. He couldn't help but smile. This wasn't a coincidence. He actually met a big star here. Looking at her nimble appearance, her leg injury should have fully recovered. Meeting a noble person when going out and meeting an old friend in a foreign land was a joyous occasion. He was about to go up and greet her when he realized that many people didn't go up to help. He saw cameras, radio receivers, and even people at the side. They were actually filming. Xiao Xiao, Xiao Xiao. Zhang Xiu seemed to remember that in his previous life, Xiao Xuetong participated in a very famous travel reality show. It should be the one she was filming now. Since they were filming, Zhang Xiu didn't go up to say hello. He walked past from the side. Unexpectedly, Xiao Xuetong saw him. Her eyes flashed with a trace of abnormality. She was somewhat unsure. After looking at him a few times, she was 80 to 90% sure. She wanted to stop Zhang Xiu, but she couldn't delay the filming, so she had to give up. When the filming was over, Xiao Xuetong returned to the hotel and said to her agent, Li Jie, I think I met Zhang Xiu. Zhang Xiu? Li Jie tore open a mask bag and prepared to help Xiao Xueqing apply a mask. The beauty of a female star needed a lot of time and money to take care of. Who? Xiao Xuetong widened her eyes and came to her side. How could you forget? In Zhongqing, when we met with trouble and I was kidnapped, it was that young man. Li Jie said, You have so many fans. Who would remember? You'd better worry about the invitation to the RV fashion show. Xiao Xueqing said, The RV fashion show is very important. Over the years, the RV fashion show will be attended. They are all the top stars in the world. But I'm not qualified. What can I do if I don't receive an invitation? Zhang Xiu is different. He's in this restaurant. He's my benefactor. She would never forget the scene when she was caught in a 7-seater car and Zhang Xiu chased after her car. She felt that even the most beautiful movie couldn't be as memorable as that scene. Li Jie said, What do you want? Xiao Xueqing grabbed Li Jie's hand and said coquettishly, I want to go out and look for him. Li Jie immediately changed her expression and said, You're crazy. You have so many fans. If someone sees you going to the hotel to look for a strange man, what if you're photographed by reporters? What if they write nonsense about you? Listen to me. Nothing is more important than an artist's image in front of the public. Xiao Xueqing pouted her pink and tender lips and said with grievance, But he's my benefactor. You don't want others to say that I'm heartless and ungrateful. Li Jie thought for a moment and said, Now that you mention it, I remember. Isn't that the famous Mr. Jiang in Jiang City? When a big star like Xiao Xueqing went to a place, the local big shots would flock to her. She was used to being flattered by people. She had seen too many people like this. She remembered Zhang Xiu because the experience that day was too special. Moreover, it was also because of the appearance of Gu Shu, who was the Feng Jiang of Zhongnan. However, there was obviously a difference between their perceptions. Xiao Xueqing knew Zhang Xiu, but Li Jie said Mr. Jiang. Yes, that's him. Li Jie muttered to herself. She felt that it was better to have a good relationship with such a person. She said, Then be careful. Remember not to be photographed. Yay! Xiao Xueqing jumped up excitedly and immediately called her little assistant. The two of them went to the front desk. Xiao Xueqing said in fluent English, Excuse me, is there a Mr. Zhang Xiu staying here from China? After the hotel checked, they shook their head and said, Sorry, there's no such person. The hotel room was booked by the Wang family on behalf of Zhang Xiu. Ah! Xiao Xueqing was a little disappointed. In such a situation, it was usually a friend who booked the room. This was troublesome. The hotel was so big. Did they have to check room by room? This was obviously not going to happen. She went back to her room dejectedly. Li Jie asked, What's wrong? The little assistant shook her head and said, I didn't find him. Li Jie said, "This kind of thing can't be done deliberately. It's fine if you can't find him. You should prepare well and see if you can go to RV's anniversary celebration tonight. I've already called the boss, but he rejected me. Xiao, you'd better call him yourself. To put it nicely, it's no joke to become RV's spokesperson. You'll immediately have an international reputation." Xiao Xueqing said, "The company only has one invitation. If it's not for me, it's for Bai Xin. Since the boss didn't give it to me, he must have given it to her. Why fight with her? When the time comes, people will say that we don't get along." Li Jie was really angry. Bai Xin is so strong. If you keep giving in to her, the company's resources will be snatched away by her. Even if you don't fight with her, she will fight with you. The entertainment industry is so realistic. Xiao Xueqing fell silent after hearing this. "Listen to me. Hurry up and go." That night, Jiang Xiu dressed up and attended the banquet. Whether or not he bought things for Cheng Lingran, he couldn't miss out on his mother's things. He wanted Lin Yueling to become the richest woman in the world. However, Jiang Xiu didn't expect the banquet to be so grand. When he arrived by car, he had to walk the red carpet. There were photographers and fans on both sides of the red carpet. There was also a wall of celebrities signing autographs. Spiritual cultivation was dumbfounded. Chapter 238. In the waiting area, Xiao Xueqing was wearing a white gown with diamonds. The cost of this gown was more than 100,000 yuan. She looked youthful, not beautiful, and the huge necklace hanging on her white neck was particularly eye-catching. However, at this moment, her face was very ugly. The company had arranged an opportunity for her, but it was a little shabby. She had to enter the venue as the female companion of a guest. Originally, Xiao Xueqing was unwilling. It was too embarrassing. However, Li Jie said that the reporters and fans outside didn't know who she was attending RV's anniversary celebration. In order to gain exposure and survive in the entertainment industry, she had to give it her all. It was already very cold in Galuya near November. Xiao Xueqing was wearing an off-shoulder jacket, revealing her beautiful calves. When the cold wind blew, her teeth chattered. If it weren't for the thick makeup on her face, her lips would have turned purple and her face would have turned blue. Why isn't he here yet? Xiao Xueqing stomped her feet and waited for the arrival of the distinguished guest named Long Tianyi. However, no matter how long she waited, he still didn't come. Just when she was about to take out her phone to ask her agent, there was a cry of surprise. She saw a beautiful woman in an evening gown holding a man's arm under the flashing lights. They walked in unhurriedly. Swish! Xiao Xueqing's face turned pale. She looked at this scene in disbelief. The anger in her heart was rising. This man was RV's distinguished guest, Mr. Long Tianyi, and the beautiful woman holding his arm was Bai Xin from the same company. How can this be? Why is Bai Xin holding his arm? What is this? Li Jie, who was outside the venue, also saw this and was stunned. Didn't Bai Xin have an invitation letter? Why did she still hold Long Tianyi's arm and go in? However, she soon understood what was going on. This was to kill Xiao Xueqing's opportunity so that she couldn't go on stage. This kind of trick was very common in the entertainment industry, and it was also the most effective and vicious. The little assistant's eyes turned red and tears welled up in her eyes. How can you bully people like this? It's bad enough that you snatched the invitation, but you even snatched the opportunity to enter as a foil. Are you trying to kill us all? Xiao Xueqing stood in the wind. She even forgot about the cold, and her eyes gradually became dull. Umph! Bai Xin sneered when she saw Xiao Xueqing standing in the waiting area. Scram! Someone was already shouting, "Little White, look over here." This way. Bai Xin put her hands on her hips and showed off her charm to her heart's content. She was extremely excited. This was the fashion capital. Her every move would be spread all over the world. When it was spread back to the country, her value would be 100 times higher. Xiao Xueqing could only stand in the wind and endure the cold. It was a pity that she had spent more than 100,000 yuan on this dress for this show. Xiao Xueqing turned around dejectedly and slipped away like a loser. When she turned around, she saw a man. He said, "What's wrong? Were you bullied again?" Xiao Xueqing's eyes lit up. "Zhang Xiu." Zhang Xiu said, "A superstar actually remembers my name." Xiao Xueqing saw that Zhang Xiu seemed to have forgotten all the unhappiness just now. Her eyes lit up and flashed. "Why are you here?" Zhang Xiu waved the invitation in his hand and said, "I'm here on behalf of a friend." Xiao Xueqing almost screamed, "Invitation!" Zhang Xiu almost turned around and left. He was not used to this kind of situation. It was just buying something. Was he afraid that he couldn't buy it if he had the money? He didn't expect to see this scene. Xiao Xueqing asked nervously, Do you have a date?" Zhang Xiu said, "Not for the time being." I. Xiao Xueqing held Zhang Xiu's hand without hesitation and said, "You're so lucky. I'll be your date. Remember to walk slowly. When I stop, you must stop with me. Follow my rhythm." Then, Zhang Xiu was pulled onto the red carpet. "Xiao Xiao! It's Xiao Xiao!" The fans at the scene screamed excitedly. In terms of popularity, Xiao Xueqing was definitely above Bai Xian. However, Bai Xian's background was stronger than hers. "Xiao Xiao, look here. Xiao Xiao, give me a smile." Xiao Xueqing was also used to big occasions. She put her hands on her hips, looked back, and smiled. Although some foreigners didn't know who this celebrity from China was, they also picked up their cameras to take pictures when they saw how passionate the fans were. The commotion attracted Bai Xian's attention. She turned her head and her expression changed. How did she get in? Who's the man beside her? She couldn't help but clench her fists. The carefully arranged show was ruined just like that. With Zhang Xiu's deliberate cooperation, the red carpet was walked very slowly. Xiao Xueqing attracted a lot of attention. When they walked to the center of the venue, Xiao Xueqing said to Bai Xian, "I'm sorry to disappoint you." Bai Xian snorted coldly. The staff at the door said, "Sir, please show us your invitation." The outside of the venue was used for commercial packaging and promotion of RV. It was open to the public, but inside was a completely private space. It was a social event for the most upper-class people in Jayaluzha. Zhang Xiu handed his invitation over. After the staff looked at it, he said in surprise, "Sir, the VIP name on this card is Wang Xintong. It's clearly a lady." Zhang Xiu said, "I'm her friend. I'm here on her behalf." The staff said, "I see. Please come in." Bai Xian's face turned green when she saw Zhang Xiu bring Xiao Xueqing into the banquet hall. "Tianyi, do you know him?" Long Tianyi shook his head. He wasn't at the castle that day and didn't see Zhang Xiu. "I heard from the waiter that the owner of the invitation is Wang Xintong, the talented daughter of the Wang family. However, I heard that the Wang family entered the market to consolidate Jiangnan's assets. She probably can't come, so she got a subordinate to come. Let's go in." The elegant sound of a violin resounded in the banquet hall. European men in suits came and went. There were also madams in expensive clothes. Of course, there were many top European and American celebrities. Bai Xian said, "Is Wang Xintong the executive CEO of Zhongtian?" "Yes." Bai Xian said, "I heard that Zhongtian spent more than $1 billion to get RV's general agency in the Asia-Pacific region. I don't know if this is true." This news didn't get much attention in other places, but it was very popular in the entertainment industry. Bai Xian, who had a lot of connections, had heard about it long ago and had her eyes on it. She wanted to get RV's spokesperson, so of course she was very concerned. The endorsement fee wasn't the main point. What was important was that RV's spokespeople were all the most popular celebrities in the world. Whoever could be the spokesperson would instantly become an international celebrity. "We can't let her beat us to it." Long Tianyi said, "Don't worry. I know all the young masters in the country, and there's no such person. Moreover, the clothes he's wearing are just ordinary goods. He's a gold-collar worker. He should be Wang Xintong's employee in Galuya. If Xiao Xueqing places her bets on him, she'll definitely end up being cheated of her money and body. This was normal. The executives of some big companies would use some of their power to deal with female celebrities and take advantage of them. After Xiao Xueqing entered the banquet hall, she attracted the attention of many men, especially the Chinese. Xiao Xueqing was quite famous. "Isn't this Miss Xu?" A man in his 40s came up to talk to her. "I really like your songs." Xiao Xueqing replied politely, "Thank you." "Miss Xu, are you here to compete for RV's spokesperson?" This man was very knowledgeable. His gaze swept across all the female celebrities in the banquet hall, meaning that she had many potential competitors. "I'll take you to see Mr. Lee from North Korea. He's the spokesperson for RV in China. Whoever he says can be that person." This middle-aged man was not so kind. Everyone knew what he was thinking. Xiao Xueqing smiled and shook her head, "Thank you." She had always been a singer and would never do anything that would make her feel bad. However, the higher she went in the entertainment industry, the more she felt that she had no choice. "You really don't need it? This is a rare opportunity." The middle-aged man looked at her chest. On the other hand, Jiang Xiu was very curious as to what kind of godly abilities this Mr. Lee from North Korea had. RV's distributor in the Asia-Pacific region was the Zhongtian Group. In other words, it belonged to him, Jiang Xiu. What did this Mr. Lee have to make decisions for him? Long Tianyi said from afar, "Xiao Bai, I'll take you to see Mr. Lee. If he says he'll let you be RV's spokesperson, then it's basically a done deal." Bai Xian said, "Really? Then take me there quickly." Chapter 239. The middle-aged man on the side seemed to have heard about the discord between Xiao Xueqing and Bai Xian. "Miss Xu, this is a rare opportunity. If you let someone else take the lead, it would be too late to regret it. A big shot like Mr. Lee is a man of his word. She said who the agent is, so she won't change it." Xiao Xueqing hesitated. Just now, she was almost rejected outside the door. The blow to her heart was still very big, and it also made her understand the importance of background. At this moment, her heart was very conflicted, especially when she saw Bai Xian being brought to see Mr. Lee. She became more and more anxious. "Mr. Lee! Mr. Lee is here!" Following these exclamations, countless people rushed over and saw a man in a white suit walking out. "Mr. Lee!" The middle-aged man couldn't care less about Xiao Xueqing, and also went up to greet him. "Little Ku." The man in the white suit was obviously younger than the other party, but he called the other party Little Ku, appearing to be high and mighty, and beside him was a beautiful girl. Today, she was wearing a red evening dress, like a flame, and under the control of her cold temperament, she seemed so contradictory and extraordinary, and for a moment, she suppressed all the female stars present. Facing the enthusiasm and flattery of the crowd, this Mr. Lee's attitude was incomparably arrogant, like a king. "Mr. Lee." Seeing Long Tianyi, Long Yingqing's face was cold and she did not say anything. However, Mr. Lee said, "Tianyi, you're here too." Originally, Long Tianyi didn't want to come. There were enough people from the Long family, but because of the request of Xiao Xueqing's boss, he came. However, attending a banquet was not a big deal. "Mr. Lee, this is my friend, Miss Bai Xian." Mr. Lee glanced at Bai Xian. In terms of looks and figure, they were not bad, but here, there were many celebrities gathered. There were many top female stars of different nationalities present, so they seemed mediocre, not to mention compared to the beautiful fiancée beside Mr. Lee. "That's right." Mr. Lee lightly praised. Long Tianyi was overjoyed, and Bai Xian, who was beside him, was even more ecstatic. She knew who the person in front of her was. Long Yingqing, who was on the side, did not speak from beginning to end. He was used to this kind of thing. "Miss Xu, what about you?" The middle-aged man stared at Xiao Xueqing. Xiao Xueqing was young and pure, and she had never been involved in any scandals. She was the type of girl that he liked, and he was even a little obsessed with her. Xiao Xueqing shook her head without much decisiveness. She could not do it. Mr. Li walked into the hall with his fiancée. Tonight's auction had already begun. Zhang Xiu asked, "Why don't you go over? Such a good opportunity?" Xiao Xueqing said, "There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. I know very well what that person is thinking. Sometimes, I waver, but I always feel conflicted." When the middle-aged man saw that Xiao Xueqing had rejected him and even chatted with Zhang Xiu, a trace of coldness flashed through his eyes. "Today is the anniversary of our RV. We will take out a part of our collection to sell. Gentlemen, please express enough sincerity for your lady," the supporter said humorously. Long Yingqing, who was following Mr. Li, reached out and took a glass of champagne. A pair of dull and lifeless eyes suddenly widened, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. She saw Zhang Xiu, and Zhang Xiu, this guy actually looked like a rich person, chatting with a female star. She shook her head in disbelief. Illusion, it must be an illusion. But Zhang Xiu was standing there alive. "It's really that bastard, why is he haunting me like a ghost?" Mr. Li seemed to still care about the fiancée beside him. He noticed that Long Yingqing's gaze was on a man. His eyes immediately turned cold. "Who is that kid?" The people beside him looked at each other, and no one could answer. At this time, some people from the Long family also came out and noticed Zhang Xiu. Long Yingqing's uncle, Long Xiaoru's eyes immediately widened. He felt that something was wrong. This kid actually came here. He must be here to cause trouble. Long Xiui's expression also changed greatly. Why is he here? They used Zhang Xiu to control Long Yingqing, but once this person caused trouble here, Long Yingqing would not have a good ending. They would also not have a good fruit to eat. At that time, no one would have a good ending. Immediately, the people from the Long family present became nervous. "Hurry up and get someone to drive him away. If something happens, it'll be troublesome." Zhang Xiu naturally noticed. He didn't expect to meet the Long family here. However, this time, everyone in the Long family thought of him as a jinx. Seeing Long Xiaoru come over, Zhang Xiu had a faint smile on his face. Xiao Xueqing on the side was a little nervous. Although she didn't know the man in front of her, she knew that this person was definitely not simple. He was not someone a small star like them could provoke. He coldly questioned Zhang Xiu, "You actually dare to come here? I thought you were a smart person. It seems that I misunderstood." Zhang Xiu said, "Why can't I appear here?" "Why?" Long Xiaoru coldly smiled. "Because you are not worthy. Where do you think this is? Is this a place where people like you can come? Everyone here is 1,000 times more noble than you. Must you come here to show your lowly status?" Zhang Xiu's expression gradually became cold. Long Xiaoru said, "I advise you to leave immediately. Don't force me to use force." Zhang Xiu said, "If you want to drive me away, you don't seem to have the right." Long Xiaoru's expression became even colder. Xiao Xueqing's heart became uneasy. As this person said, Zhang Xiu's purpose in coming here today might not be so simple. Thinking that Zhang Xiu's name was not on the invitation, Xiao Xueqing was even more worried. Long Xiaoru waved to a black bodyguard standing in the distance. The man walked over and asked, "Mr. Long, what can I do for you?" "This person sneaked in. He's not on the invitation list. I suspect that he's a thief." There would be a jewelry auction here, so of course, it would attract the attention of thieves. These words immediately hit the bodyguard's sensitive nerve. "Sir, please show me your invitation letter." Zhang Xiu knew what Long Xiaoru was worried about. He was worried that his and Long Yingqing's relationship would be exposed and Mr. Li would find out. They were afraid that this matter would blow up, but how could he, Jiang Luoxia, let such a thing happen to him? His arrogance was far from what these people could imagine. I threw it away. The invitation letter was like a movie ticket to him. Of course, he threw it away after entering the venue. He was all alone, so it was uncomfortable to hold such a big invitation letter. The bodyguard said, "Threw it away?" "Hee, sir, your words are hard to believe." Long Tianyi and Bai Xin saw that there was a situation here and also came over. They watched with interest, especially Bai Xin, who was gloating. She couldn't wait for Xiao Xueqing to be driven out. Then, RV's endorsement in China would most likely be hers. Xiao Xueqing, on the other hand, said nervously, "Mr. Bodyguard, we did have an invitation just now. This Mr. Long and Miss Bai can testify for us because we registered together." Bai Xian, quickly help us explain. Bai Xian said, "What's there to explain? I was chatting with Mr. Long and didn't pay attention." Xiao Xueqing widened her eyes and said, "You," the bodyguard said. "Sir, I'm sorry, but you might be in trouble." Each of them was over 1.9 meters tall and looked very fierce. They were all wearing suits and sunglasses and had already gathered around with bad intentions. It seemed that they wanted to deal with Zhang Xiu. They approached Zhang Xiu without leaving a trace. It seemed that if Zhang Xiu didn't cooperate, they would take him down directly. Xiao Xueqing was so nervous that her pretty face turned pale. If this matter was spread back to China, who knew what the reporters would write? "I'm here on behalf of Miss Wang Xintong. You can check at the front desk." Long Xiaoru said, "Okay, you said you're here on behalf of the Wang family. What are you here on behalf of the Wang family for?" Zhang Xiu said, "Of course I'm here to buy jewelry." At this moment, the auction began. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to auction a crown chain from the 18th century. It's an item from the palace and belonged to the Galois imperial concubine. The starting price is 5 million euros. Each bid is 500,000 euros. Buy it. If you buy it, we'll believe you. If you don't, then don't blame us for being rude." Chapter 240. The tiara necklace was exquisitely crafted and inlaid with diamonds. It sparkled under the light and gave off a sense of luxury. The cost alone was not cheap. Coupled with the lost craftsmanship of the last century and its historical significance, the starting price of 5 million euros was not high at all. The market value could reach 10 million euros or even higher. Long Xiaoru said, "This is only the first item. The following items will only be more expensive." His eyes were filled with disdain. Not to mention Zhang Xiu, even they would be in the limelight if they won the first item. 10 million euros was equivalent to 100 million yuan. 100 million for a piece of jewelry was a huge sum for anyone. "Are you sure you're here to buy jewelry? Then why don't you buy it?" Of course, Zhang Xiu was here to buy jewelry. However, he didn't care if he wanted to buy jewelry or not. It had nothing to do with Long. He glanced at him coldly. "Do I need to tell you what I do? Who do you think you are?" Long Xiaoru's eyes widened. "How dare you talk to me like that?" The surrounding Long family members were in an uproar. A kid who came out of nowhere dared to talk back to the Long family. They boasted that the Long family was a big family in China and could be looked down upon by foreigners. However, they could not stand the ridicule of a lowly kid like Zhang Xiu. They all glared at Zhang Xiu angrily. Zhang Xiu said, "Why? Are you a noble in China? Can't I talk to you?" Xiao Xuetong quickly tugged at Zhang Xiu's clothes, indicating that he should stop talking. These big shots were not to be offended. The consequences would be unimaginable. Long Xiaoru's face turned colder. "I think you're here to cause trouble. Bodyguards, this is a thief. Hurry up and arrest him." The bodyguards did not belong to Long Xiaoru. They would listen to whatever he said. Those who were here were all high officials and nobles. They did not dare to offend them. The bodyguards were not stupid either. They could tell that these two people were not on good terms. "My words don't matter? Do you want me to look for Mr. Li?" At that time, it's hard to say if you can keep your jobs. The bodyguard's expression changed as he said, "Sir, please come with us for a while. Please understand that we have to verify your identity. More and more people started to notice them. What's going on there? Looks like someone was caught sneaking in. Zhang Xiu said, he's a VIP, but am I not? Aren't you afraid that I'll make you lose your jobs by taking me away? Are you sure you don't have the ability to do that? The bodyguard, those who could enter this place were no small matter. When Long Xiaoru saw that the bodyguards were intimidated, he frowned and said, he's just a poor boy. He can't even afford a single piece of jewelry here. He's just here to cause trouble. Why are you afraid of him? Hurry up and catch him. Zhang Xiu was nonchalant, non-committal. Long Yingqing saw that the situation was getting out of hand, and the surrounding crowd was gradually gathering. She walked over, and her beautiful brows were tightly knitted together. It's you again. That annoyance was written all over her beautiful face. Didn't I give you money? Do you really think you can take advantage of my Long family? Don't be stupid. What kind of existence is my Long family? How can you scheme against us? Long Yingqing thought that Zhang Xiu must have found out that the Long family was rich, and that the family had misunderstood her relationship with him, so she wanted to use this to make a fortune. This kind of opportunistic heart was really disgusting, but this kind of person was the one thing that this world did not lack. You still want that check? Stop dreaming. Long Yingqing worriedly turned around to look at Mr. Li and found that he had indeed looked in her direction a few times. However, he still had to socialize with the people around him. Don't think about causing trouble here. There won't be a good outcome. Get someone to keep an eye on him. Long Xiaoru said, I don't need you to tell me that. After Long Yingqing finished speaking, she quickly returned to Mr. Li's side. She could not leave for too long. Otherwise, with that person's temper, she might get angry. Long Xiaoru said to the bodyguard, listen carefully. If you don't dare to invite him out, then keep an eye on him. Once the jewelry auction is over, let him leave. The bodyguard nodded. If they were to forcefully take Zhang Xiu away, firstly, they were afraid that Zhang Xiu was really a VIP. Secondly, they were worried that Zhang Xiu would not cooperate and would disturb other guests. They could not afford to take that responsibility, so it was fine to keep an eye on him at the scene. Humph. Zhang Xiu snorted coldly. Buying something made people feel disgusted. After those people dispersed, Xiao Xuetong looked at those people who left and said with lingering fear, those people are from the Long family. How bold, to actually be able to give orders here. The Long family is truly worthy of being a big family in China. How impressive. I say, how dare you go against them? Zhang Xiu said, you're just a bunch of chickens and dogs. Xiao Xueqing rolled her eyes. Do you know who the Long family is? The ignorant are fearless. All right, are you really here to buy jewelry? Zhang Xiu said, I'm really here to buy jewelry. Xiao Xueqing thought to herself, it would be strange if I believed you. However, she believed that Zhang Xiu was not a bad person. She could not forget the scene that day. If he was a bad person, he would not chase after the car for so long. Long Yingqing returned to Mr. Li's side. Mr. Li asked, who is that person? Long Yingqing said, a person who wants to take advantage of my Long family. Mr. Li smiled faintly. He saw disgust on Long Yingqing's face, and even a trace of disdain. He knew how arrogant his fiancée was. Even in front of him, she was very arrogant. Sometimes, she even dared to treat his words as wind. Long Yingqing's aloofness was the most attractive thing about her. However, he wondered how this Mr. Li would feel if he knew that his noble fiancée had been drenched from head to toe by Zhang Xiu. Money and power will make people crazy, Long Yingqing said. I know how to deal with it. Mr. Li said, the best way to deal with this kind of person is to completely make him disappear from this world and intimidate those who have designs on the Long family. Don't make a fuss over nothing. Mr. Li smiled and pointed at the necklace. Do you like it? If you like it, I'll buy it for you. The item being auctioned now was that crown necklace. 12. €5 million going once. Long Ying-ching was born into a wealthy family. Her vanity was not as strong as that of ordinary women. She was not obsessed with jewelry, but when a man gave a gift, she would not accept it. She nodded slightly. Seeing her nod, Mr. Li smiled. This fiancé of his was mature, cold, and emotionless. She would only show her feminine side in front of him. He raised his hand. Wow, Mr. Li also wants this jewelry. The auctioneer from the RV family was very excited. €15 million. He increased the bid by €5 million in one go, which turned into $20 million. It was really a big deal. At the same time, it was a warning to everyone present that he wanted this necklace. Under normal circumstances, everyone would understand the situation and stop bidding. However, the bidding just now was very strong. There was a European noble who seemed to have a special interest in this jewelry. It was the Cadillac family. €15,500,000. The Cadillac noble bowed slightly to Mr. Li to show that it was a fair competition. Mr. Li said, €30 million. He was determined to get it. When this price was called, everyone was stunned. Then, there was an uproar. It was really a big deal. He doubled the price. Did you think you were buying vegetables at the market? This was €15 million, more than 100 million. The Cadillac noble was stunned. This jewelry was once owned by his ancestors. It was sold because of poverty. Now that the family was on the right track again, he wanted to buy it back. He shook his head in amazement. €30 million was too crazy. It was just a crown necklace. Everyone knew that this jewelry basically belonged to Mr. Li. Congratulations, Mr. Li. Mr. Li shrugged his shoulders helplessly. I'm not a lady. I can't wear it. I should be congratulating Miss Long. Long Ying-ching smiled shyly. €30 million going once. €30 million going twice. Just as the auctioneer was about to hit the hammer, a voice suddenly sounded. 100 million. 100 million euros. Hua! The entire banquet exploded. What kind of joke was this? Everyone's gaze swept over. Nobles, celebrities, and actresses all looked at the person who made the bid in shock. Zhang Xiu raised his hand calmly. Chapter 241. All the guests at the banquet focused their attention on Zhang Xiu. They were shocked. 100 million euros. 100 million euros to buy a string of jewelry. How rich must one be to do such a thing? Madness was not enough. The black bodyguard forgot to stop him. Xiao Xueqing, who was at the side, was even more dumbfounded. Did this guy just bid 100 million euros? She did, right? That's right. Bai Xian was completely stunned. 100 million euros. What kind of concept was that? His company might not even be worth 100 million euros if he sold it all. Long Yingqing's eyes almost popped out. She stared at Zhang Xiu without blinking. He must have lost his mind. Everyone in the Long family looked at Zhang Xiu in shock. This kid, was he really rich? They couldn't believe it, even if he was rich. Their first reaction was to be shocked by Zhang Xiu. 100 million euros to buy a string of jewelry, and it beat Mr. Li's price. But thinking about it carefully, did he have that much money? Mr. Li also looked at this person in shock. His eyes narrowed into a line. Zhang Xiu's face was calm and indifferent. He looked at the auctioneer and asked, "What, didn't you hear clearly? Then I'll say it again. 100 million euros." The auctioneer came to his senses. "Sir, are you sure?" Zhang Xiu said, "Why, I'm joking." At this moment, Xiao Xueqing's expression changed drastically. She hurriedly reached out to pull Zhang Xiu. This was not a place where such jokes could be made. This was a very serious auction house. Everything was modeled after the court in order to express its solemnity. Long Xiaoru said, "If a false bid leads to a dispute, the auction house has the right to ask the court to let you pay according to the bid price. In other words, if you just bid for fun and can't pay, all your funds will be frozen by the court, and you will be forced to declare bankruptcy. You will also be imprisoned. Jiang Xiu said, "Noisy." He flipped his finger and took out a black bank card. The card flew accurately to the ranking table, shining under the light. It's Centurion Yun Tong. Everyone present was rich and powerful, and they knew the weight of the world's most mysterious card. It was the world's highest credit card, and it could enjoy top-notch honor, customized exclusive services, and unparalleled global expediency. King of Cards. Shocked. This time he was really shocked. That card could overdraw up to 36 million euros, but it had to be known that the person who could get that card could easily take out 100 million euros. Everyone in the Long family was even more astonished. Wasn't he just a poor kid? This kid is really rich. I misjudged him. Long Yingqing's expression was also extremely complicated. She realized that her judgment of Jiang Xiu had never been right. A strange feeling arose in her heart. This brat was actually so rich. Xiao Xueqing quickly reminded Jiang Xiu, "Hey, are you crazy? How can this thing be worth 100 million euros? Even 1,000 euros is too expensive. Don't buy it." Jiang Xiu said, "Auctioneer, aren't you going to call the count?" The auctioneer had just woken up. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Jiang Xiu. His body seemed to have a divine light, shining with golden light. 100 million euros, going once. Most people present didn't know who he was. But he took out 100 million euros to buy something that was worth 5 million euros. This move was enough to make these people worship Jiang Xiu. 100 million euros, going twice. Jiang Xiu said to Mr. Li, "What, you're not playing anymore?" Mr. Li's expression became ugly. It was indeed embarrassing to have his auction item stolen. He had bid 3,000 euros to show off. Well, he didn't show off and instead helped this kid. But the price of 100 million euros was too high. This thing wasn't worth it at all. No matter how rich someone was, they wouldn't joke around with 100 million euros. Mr. Li said, "This jewelry isn't worth 100 million euros at all. Sir, if you like it, I'll let you have it." These words, he was going to force himself. Everyone present could see that the crown chain was worth less than 1,000 euros. Mr. Li bid 3,000 euros, and more than 1,000 euros all at once. Did he care about the real value of this jewelry? Not at all. The value of some things wasn't just the thing itself. Saying that this jewelry wasn't worth 100 million euros was really sour grapes. 100 million euros, going thrice. The auctioneer banged the hammer. Sold. Long Yingqing's expression was ugly. This was not only a slap to Mr. Li's face, but also to her face. She said, "I don't like that crown chain very much either." After losing this card, Wang Xintong immediately replaced it and gave it to Jiang Xiu along with her passport. After swiping the card, the relevant personnel respectfully returned the card to Jiang Xiu. The bodyguard on the side came to Jiang Xiu and said respectfully, "I'm sorry, sir. We mistakenly believed other people's words." The Long family's expressions were extremely awkward. Long Xiaoru said, "I didn't expect this kid to be such a character. I made a mistake. Using 100 million euros to buy a piece of jewelry. This pretentious act is bleeding internally. You know your own pain." Long Xiui sneered, puffing oneself up at one's own cost. Everyone's eyes were focused on Xiao Xueqing. This jewelry was definitely not worn by her, but by the lady beside her. For a moment, Xiao Xueqing was in the limelight. Xiao Xueqing was still a little confused. "So, you're that rich?" She felt like she was in love. God had sent a rich Prince Charming into her life. The second auction item is a necklace. The starting price is 6 million euros. Everyone began to bid one after another. 6. 5 million. This was the first time Mr. Li had failed. This time, He wanted to regain his face no matter what. He said to Long Ying-ching, "I'll buy it for you, okay?" Long Ying-ching nodded and glanced at Zhang Xiu. 10 million. He jumped straight up. This was the face he wanted. He had to get back what he had lost. 100 million euros. Whoosh. The crowd was in an uproar again. This was a head-on confrontation. How could this be? This was simply standing in front of the other party and slapping him in the face. Mr. Li was embarrassed. Mr. Li's face turned ashen. The people behind him even wanted to stand up and warn Zhang Xiu. He had already lost face once. If he lost face again, he would lose a lot of face. 150 million euros. Mr. Li said. Whoosh. The crowd was in an uproar. This was exciting. Zhang Xiu did not back down. 200 million euros. Mr. Li's face darkened. This was clearly not giving him face. 200 million, more than 2 billion euros. How was he going to explain this to his family? 250 million euros. Zhang Xiu said, 500 million euros. Whoosh. The eyes of the European tycoons, aristocrats, and actresses were about to pop out. 500 million euros. Oh my God. All eyes were on Mr. Li's face. They were waiting to see if he would bid. He had a standard North Korean man's face. His face was a little flat. At this time, his expression was very unnatural. The muscles at the corner of his mouth twitched. 500 million euros for a necklace. Even the world's most valuable heart of the ocean was only sold for 100 million euros. That was because it was taken back by the royal family. What was this now? He was going crazy. But if he backed down, where would he put his face? Long Ying-ching was dumbfounded. She looked at Zhang Xiu in disbelief. He was still so young. Even if his family was rich, this was 500 million euros. No one, whether it was China, North Korea, Europe, West Asia, or the royal family, could be so calm. Who was he? Where did he come from? Bai Xin looked at Zhang Xiu in her dream. Hateful, too hateful. Xiao Xueqing had hooked up with such a rich young master. Then she looked at the man beside her. She thought Long Tianyi was very good, but now he was inferior to Zhang Xiu. 500 million euros, going once. Going twice. Every time the number was called out, it was like a loud slap to Mr. Li's face. Going thrice, sold. There was a warm and somewhat crazy applause. This matter would definitely sweep the European and American upper class tomorrow. It was too crazy. After 2 unsuccessful bids, Mr. Li did not bid again. His face was swollen. How could he continue to take it? He looked at Zhang Xiu and said lightly, "Young man, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Sometimes, a moment of arrogance will make you regret it for the rest of your life." Chapter 242. Zhang Xiu smiled faintly and declined to comment. After that, Mr. Li didn't make a move, and neither did Zhang Xiu. He had already bought the 2 items he wanted. The auction continued, but no one had recovered from the previous 2 auctions. By the time the auction ended, everyone was still discussing. Everyone was secretly speculating about Zhang Xiu's background. Xiao Xueqing was also in the limelight. She was the woman standing beside Zhang Xiu. She asked, "Zhang Xiu, what does your family do? How come you're so rich?" Zhang Xiu said, "I used to sell fruits. Now, I do everything." Xiao Xueqing said, "But 600 million euros to buy these 2 pieces of jewelry is really..." She didn't know what to say. In 2008, China's economy hadn't taken off yet. Millionaires in China were already considered rich. 600 million euros was more than 6 billion. It was simply unimaginable. Zhang Xiu didn't think much of it. At his level, money was just a worldly possession. Things that could be bought with money weren't valuable in his eyes. Things that were truly valuable couldn't be bought with money. After the auction ended, everyone went back to their normal social interactions. They chatted with wine glasses. Bai Xian said, "This time, Xiao Xueqing stole the limelight. I'm afraid that RV's spokesperson will be snatched away." Zhang Xiu spent 600 million euros on RV's anniversary celebration. RV also stole the limelight. The chances of the spokesperson being snatched away are very small. She was unwilling, very unwilling, but there was nothing she could do. Who told Xiao Xueqing to find a tycoon who could casually spend 600 million euros? Even the Europeans were shocked. Looking at the Western female stars, they were going crazy. Their expressions were so exaggerated that powder was about to fall from their faces. Long Tianyi said, "Humph, there are many rich people in this world, but not many people with power. Mr. Li is one of them. As RV's spokesperson, as long as Mr. Li speaks, RV's family won't dare to disobey." Bai Xian's eyes lit up. "Really?" Long Tianyi said, "Of course. That kid stole the limelight, but the consequence was that he offended Mr. Li. People who offend Mr. Li never have a good ending." Mr. Li walked towards Zhang Xiu and sized up Zhang Xiu from head to toe with a smile. He was very confident and had the aura of a monarch. "You spent so much money because you want to help Miss Xiao Xueqing become the spokesperson for RV." Zhang Xiu smiled faintly and declined to comment. Mr. Li laughed. His laughter was full of mockery. Zhang Xiu asked, "What are you laughing at?" Mr. Li said, "I'm laughing at your ignorance. No matter how much money you have, it's not worth a single word from me. I'll give the position of RV's spokesperson in China to whomever I want. Long Tianxiang recommended Bai Xian to me, and I think she's not bad, so I'll definitely give her the position." However, Zhang Xiu said, "Why don't I believe you?" Mr. Li said, "That's why I said you're ignorant. You don't know the rules of this game at all. Kid, no matter how much money you have, if you don't have absolute strength to protect yourself, you're just a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Everyone, our RV lady invites you in." Along the way, RV's people came and delayed Zhang Xiu for a while, allowing him to swipe his card. They asked Zhang Xiu how he was going to hand over the jewelry. Zhang Xiu only said lightly, "Just take it to my driver." It was so casual and so annoying, but it scared the people from the RV family. "Sir, this was 600 million euros. Now, the jewels were trembling violently in their hands. When Zhang Xiu and Xiao Xueqing entered the banquet, Mr. Li and the Long family members were already there. Of course, Bai Xian was also there. It was very quiet inside, in the style of a Gaulish manor. Inside, Zhang Xiu saw a European woman in her 70s or even older. Her face was full of wrinkles, but she was dressed elegantly. This woman was Ms. RV, who single-handedly founded RV's top luxury brand. Ms. RV gave Zhang Xiu and Xiao Xueqing a European aristocratic salute. "Honorable Sir, I'm very happy that you like our jewelry so much. Please sit down." She asked the servant to pour a glass of expensive red wine for Zhang Xiu and Xiao Xueqing. "Sir, you should have conditions to bid for our jewelry at such a high price. Why don't you tell us?" In fact, the old lady's heart was like a mirror. However, Zhang Xiu said, "No conditions." Xiao Xueqing really wanted Zhang Xiu to help her get the spokesperson, but she didn't say anything in the end. After all, the relationship between the two wasn't that good. If Zhang Xiu didn't take the initiative to mention it, she couldn't open her mouth. Ms. RV said, "In that case, it can't be better." Then, according to Mr. Li's intention, RV's representative in China will be signed to Miss Bai Xian. Xiao Xueqing helplessly lowered her head, and the winner, Bai Xian, was so happy that she almost jumped up. Her whole body was trembling, and she was so excited that she couldn't control herself. As soon as the news spread, coupled with a more impressive advertising campaign, it immediately became an international model. Xiao Xueqing was directly one level lower than her. Mr. Li glanced at Zhang Xiu indifferently. "Now you understand, boy. Some things can't be decided by money. In my eyes, you're just a hopping grasshopper. No matter how hopping you are, you're still a grasshopper." "Wait. Ms. RV asked in surprise. Is there a problem? Zhang Xiu said, Of course there's a problem. What right does Ms. RV have to decide the spokesperson for China? Everyone present wondered if Zhang Xiu was stupid. The RV brand was owned by Ms. RV. Of course, Ms. RV had the final say on who would be the spokesperson for China. Just her name alone was enough. Long Xiaoru couldn't help but say, Do you think you're so great just because you have some money? Ms. RV said, Sir, what do you mean by that? Zhang Xiu said, I know something, but I don't know if it's true. I heard that RV has found a representative in Asia? RV nodded and said, It's true. RV was a luxury brand, but it was doing very well in Europe and America. It could be said to be the top luxury brand with great influence. However, its performance in the Asia-Pacific region was mediocre. It could even be said that they had not been able to enter the Asia-Pacific region market for a long time. After many discussions, the RV family felt that it was caused by cultural conflicts. Therefore, they found a representative company. Wang Xintong bought the representative rights with a sky-high price of 1.5 billion renminbi and a proposal. Zhang Xiu said, Since the representative rights have been given to someone, Ms. RV seems to have no right to interfere with the other party's operations in the Asia-Pacific region. Of course, it's not up to Ms. RV to decide who the spokesperson for China will be. Mr. Li said, Childish. Whoever I say will be RV's spokesperson for China will be that person. His tone was firm and domineering. It felt as if even Ms. RV had to listen to him. Ms. RV said, What Mr. Li says is what I say. I will inform Ms. Wang who got the endorsement. She has no reason to object to the decision of the headquarters. Zhang Xiu said, You're wrong. She will definitely object. Ms. RV didn't understand. Zhang Xiu said, Because I'm her boss. Wow. Mr. Li, the entire Long family, Bai Xin, and Xiao Xueqing were all shocked. They didn't expect this person to be so secretive. Ms. RV also had a look of shock. Zhang Xiu said, I don't think Bai Xin is suitable. As long as the representative rights for the Asia-Pacific region are in my hands, she will never be able to become RV's spokesperson. This is what I said. Well, Mr. Li was slapped in the face for the third time in public. His face instantly turned green. It was really painful. Zhang Xiu said, Xiao Xueqing will be the new RV spokesperson. The ups and downs of life were too fast and too exciting. Xiao Xueqing thought that she had no chance of being RV's spokesperson. She didn't expect things to take such a turn. Ms. RV said, What if I insist on using Bai Xin? Zhang Xiu said, I insist on using Xiao Xueqing. Ms. RV said, Then I will revoke your representative rights for the Asia-Pacific region. Zhang Xiu said, That's your right. However, I think your RV family has to prepare compensation. I think this fee won't be low. You have to consider whether you should pay for it yourself or look for him. But don't forget how he made a fool of himself at the auction just now. The representative fee was more than 1 billion, which was more than 100 million euros. Under normal circumstances, the penalty for breach of contract would definitely not be low. According to Wang Xintong's business genius, the penalty for breach of contract would naturally be ridiculously high. It would definitely not be less than 10 times. He can't even afford to buy jewelry for his girlfriend and his old face. Would he be willing to pay the penalty for breach of contract? Damn it! A man standing behind Mr. Li angrily rushed out. He pulled out a sharp long knife and slashed at Zhang Xiu. For a moment, the bright knife light suddenly chilled the entire room. An overwhelming knife chi came head-on. Wait. You kid, you really want to go against me? Do you know who I am? Chapter 243. The Long family was considered a wealthy family in Hua Nation. Mr. Li from North Korea was definitely not a simple person to be able to make such a family bow down to him and have such a great reputation in Europe. Zhang Xiu waited for him with great interest, waiting for him to tell him who he was. Mr. Li said, "Kid, you underestimate the power I have." He raised his wine glass and took a sip like a king. "My name is Li. Here. Ji." The moment the words left his mouth, the air seemed to stagnate. This was a well-known name in North Korea. There was no imperial power in North Korea, but Li Ziji was like a descendant of imperial power in North Korea. He was indescribably noble because the Li family had a great say in the imperial court. The proud prince who bragged to the Zhang family was the real Li Ziji in Jiangnan. He studied at the Royal Academy of Never Setting Sun since he was a child. His classmates were all members of the royal family of various countries. Whether it was their background or connections, they were all indescribably noble. Now, he was very confident in his influence. Never heard of it. Zhang Xiu shook his head. Spiritual cultivation was not deliberately humiliating him. He really had never heard of it. Everyone's expression changed. It was fine if you didn't know about Li Ziji's identity, but now that you've revealed it, you still have such an attitude? What was even more unknown was that Mr. Li's family possessed unimaginable power that was superior to ordinary mortals. Otherwise, why would Ms. RV support him so relentlessly and not hesitate to offend the person who spent 600 million euros to buy her family's jewelry and promote RV to the top? Logically speaking, with his background, it should not be difficult for him to come up with €1 billion. However, that was not the case. It was like a certain richest man in Hua Nation's future. He said he was worth hundreds of billions, but it was difficult for him to move a few hundred million. He had to go to the bank for a project that was worth $1 billion. The Li family was short of money. Therefore, if he could not win with money, he would compete with power. Using power and power to oppress others. This was how officials exploited businessmen. Zhang Xiu said, "Sounds awesome. He should be someone important. Then why don't you take out a few billion euros to terminate the contract with RV? Once the contract is terminated, you can choose whoever you want to be RV's spokesperson. If you don't have money, then don't talk nonsense. Beggars insist on pretending to be rich." Li Ziji's expression changed greatly. Damn it! Jin Ingrong, the martial cultivator behind him, was furious. How dare a Chinese man be so disrespectful and humiliate his master? In an instant, he drew his saber and slashed towards Zhang Xiu at lightning speed. The saber radiance turned into a beam of light that stretched several meters away, causing the grass on the ground to flip up. It seemed like it was going to cut Zhang Xiu in half like a piece of grass. Those who humiliate Mr. Li, die. Sky dance slash. The air made a tearing sound under the saber strength. The blade strike had already been infused with qi energy, indicating that this person's cultivation level was very high. He might have reached the peak of the transcendent state and was only half a step away from the demigod state. As soon as the saber light was slashed out, it arrived in front of Zhang Xiu in a flash and was about to kill him. A cruel smile appeared on Jin Ingrong's face. Those who humiliated the country and Mr. Li should be sentenced to death. He aimed at Zhang Xiu's central axis and would cut Zhang Xiu in half neatly from the middle. Heh! Mr. Li didn't even look. He picked up his wine glass and enjoyed the finest wine that had been brewed in the 70s. Controlling Zhang Xiu's life was as easy as eating and drinking. Long Yingqing's eyes widened in shock. At that moment, she couldn't tell what she was feeling. She hated Zhang Xiu so much that she gritted her teeth. However, at that moment, when she saw Zhang Xiu about to be killed, she sympathized with Zhang Xiu. She even felt a little sad and blamed him for digging his own grave. You don't know what Mr. Li means and how powerful the forces behind him are. Some people are not to be trifled with. However, Zhang Xiu slowly looked up and glanced around. That glance was like Bodhi opening his Dharma eye. It was as if the entire time and space had been stretched infinitely, and everything became abnormally slow. Boom! It was as if thunder had exploded in the field. A wisp of white smoke, like smoke from a cigar, flew out in an extremely slow manner. It was as if it was dissipating, but it was accompanied by a terrifying sound of thunder, revealing an unparalleled power. Qi energy spread out in all directions with that wisp of white smoke as the center. Xiao Xueqing was pushed back several steps, and the luxurious rattan chair she was sitting on was sent flying. That power was nothing more than a bomb explosion. The saber radiance and the sound of the saber dissipated like the people around it. The cruel expression on Ji Ningrong's face stiffened and was replaced by endless fear. Clang! 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 His saber was still chopping down, but the blade could not withstand such a degree of power at all. Under the horrified gaze of everyone, the long saber broke inch by inch, all the way to the handle. Ji Ningrong flew out and hit the stylishly designed floor-to-ceiling window behind him that was at least 10 to 20 meters away. With a bang, he smashed into it and fell into the dark room. Silence. Complete silence. They were shocked, really shocked. Zhang Xiu could actually release such a terrifying power with a snap of his fingers and defeat the saber expert beside Mr. Li. Oh my God! What kind of power was that? Everyone present looked at Zhang Xiu in a different light. Xiao Xueqing was dumbfounded. Her understanding of Zhang Xiu was refreshed again and again. At first, she thought he was a student in Jiang City, and then he became a tycoon. Now, damn, he was acting, right? Even acting wasn't so exaggerated. Xiao Xueqing and Bai Xin did not understand the industry, but everyone in the Long family knew. They were all stunned. The person they looked down on, treated like an ant, and used to deal with Long Yingqing was actually such a terrifying person. They felt a burst of fear in their hearts, and cold sweat broke out on their backs. Long Yingqing was even more shocked. This was Zhang Xiu's true strength. It was too terrifying. He had shown mercy that day. Otherwise, even if she could keep her life, her legs would be crippled. There was also an expert standing behind the Long family, Lin Yao. He thought that he might not be able to block that saber just now, but Zhang Xiu had only flicked his fingers. What level had this person reached in martial arts? Could it be that he was a martial arts master, or even a demigod? Lin Yao did not dare imagine that this person was still so young. As for Mr. Li, he looked as if he had been lit up. He held the bottom of a wine glass in his hand. The wine glass had already shattered, and the red wine inside spilled all over his body. Zhang Xiu said, "You actually want to fight with me? Ignorant, stupid. It wasn't easy for you to be a civilized person and use proper methods to deal with this matter, but you just had to force our spiritual cultivation to make a move. It's still the same words. If you want Bai Xin to be RV's spokesperson in China, then RV will have to break the contract and take back the agency." Li Ziji was someone who had seen a lot, so he was able to maintain his composure. "Your cultivation is not weak, no wonder you are so arrogant. You don't even give face to my Li family, but you still don't know how powerful my Li family is. My Li family has a demigod, and a demigod is still in Heaven's Gate. Do you know what a demigod is? Do you know what kind of existence a demigod is? You are a martial cultivator, so you should know. Then you should know your own limits." Zhang Xiu looked indifferently at Li Ziji, who had been spilled all over by the red wine. He was still high and mighty, speaking with fervor and assurance as if he was the ruler of the world. "Do you know why your country has been holed up in China all these years, allowing others to bully you? Because your country's demigods are weak. There are no more than 2 demigods in China who can fight against my Li family's demigods. Not to mention, the Li family has Heaven's Gate behind them. Back off obediently, and I will spare your life on account of your difficult cultivation." Not far behind him, Lin Yao was extremely shocked. He looked at Zhang Xiu, who was not even 20 years old and had the surname Jiang. He felt that these clues were somewhat familiar. Lin Yao's expression changed drastically. Did he just say that he is Wang Xintong's boss? Long Yingqing said, "Yes, is there a problem?" Lin Yao could no longer stay calm. Cold sweat dripped down his forehead. Wang Xintong is Zhang Luoxia's spokesperson in Zhongnan. Since he is Wang Xintong's boss, then isn't he? Lin Yao's expression changed drastically. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets as he looked at Zhang Xiu. Li Ziji's expression was arrogant. But, you have to hand over the spokesperson of RV, Zhang Xiu said. What if I don't hand it over? Li Ziji's expression darkened. Then be prepared to become enemies with the Li family and face the wrath of the Li family. But don't blame me for not reminding you, unless you are Si Wuxie or Zhang Luoxia, otherwise. The result is only death, Zhang Xiu said. I am already prepared, but are you ready? Li Ziji said, what do you mean? You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.